أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وارزقنا فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الكرام ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah everyone for coming to session number 16, and inshallah I think today we will finish with the text of Imam al-Ghazali. In the last three sections remaining, we'll finish this text today inshallah, and then in the next session we will look at Ibn Sina's theory, temperament theory, and then inshallah we'll do Imam al-Haddad's text, and then we will be done with the course inshallah. So now the final section that he's going to look at is if you remember, I spoke about the four concepts, general concepts that outline the nature of this reality, the nature of the cosmos, and there are many concepts of the likes, but there are these four which were Tawheed, the unification and universality of one God, and then Khilafa, which is sound and proper governance across all of reality, and then Ilm, which is knowledge, and we said that everything is in a state of knowing, and the ultimate knowing is God Almighty, and that man by his nature was created to know God. And then the last piece was the balance, at-tawazun, which is everything has been created in a balance. And then there is a material balance, there is a spatial balance, and then there is a temporal balance. So we looked at, he spoke about the concept of balance within the human being, psychological balance. He spoke about governance, the khilafa within the human being. And then he spoke about ilm as the ultimate goal and ambition that mankind should have. Now he's going to focus on the final piece, which is the fourth. Now these four, by the way, these are my own theory. These are not, this is from my studies, what I saw as a theme, as a thematic representation from Ghazali's works. I found that this is essentially the four concepts that he's talking about. So this is my own theory, that these are the four concepts that are required for sound governance. And if you look in my book, The One-Eyed Impostor, there's chapter number 2, I believe, the test of time, the test of life in time and dimensionality. In there you will find these four concepts, and I've explained them much more deeper as it pertains to the study of the eschatos, the eschatology of mankind, the final stage of man in this world. Because there's something unique, something remarkable about the way mankind generally, if you look at man's origin, his origin is the prime origin, right? Fitra. So his origination is fitra. And as he progresses through time, man as a whole, as a species, that fitra slowly diminishes until he becomes completely entrained into a different nature altogether. That is different, that is variant from his prime origin. So man begins in a state of spirituality and then ends up in a state of materiality. And that's, you can examine this in the holistic sense of mankind and in the individual sense as well. every being, every human being is born in a state of spiritual awareness. That's what the Prophet ﷺ also meant by every child is born on fitrah, and fitrah is a spiritual state. It's not a materialistic state. But then every human being eventually gets entrained into the materiality of this worldly life, and that's the test on him. That's the ultimate test on him to oppose that. This is why he is told to direct his existence towards Din Hanifa, the deen that will give him the truth. And Hanafa, we said, is to, one of the meanings is to incline away. So it's to incline away from the materiality of this world towards the spiritual essence, the true reality. Now, if you look at mankind's progression, if you only study the last, let's say, 2 decades, for example, and then you compare that to the last 55 decades, and then that to the last century, and then this last century to the last 5 centuries, and you keep going backwards in that sense, you find that we are now drawing much closer and closer towards a state of complete materiality. And all aspects of our being are completely material driven, which takes man's thought further and further away from divine unity, because divine unity, the divine presence, is not a material presence. So the further away you draw away from, or you draw towards materiality, the further away you're drawing, the closer you draw towards materialism, a material reality, the further away you draw from the divine presence. And that's where you find almost everything in towards this eschatos now. Eschatos means the culmination, the finality of things. That's where the eschatology is, the study of the finality of things, the climax of this great epic called the epic of mankind, right? You find everything now. If you were to do a quantitative analysis of everything, if you were to collect data and plot everything on a quantitative chart, you will find, and this is, you can try this out yourself, you'll find anything you pick, whatever instrument you want to take, whatever you want to examine, whether it's politics, whether it's economics, finance, whether it's education, whatever it is, vegetable produce, water consumption, weather patterns, whatever you want to take and plot it on a quantitative graph, you will find that its quantitativeness is exponential comparative to, let's say, you take a 1,000-year timeline, then you take a 100-year timeline, and then you take a 50-year timeline, 20-year timeline, 5-year timeline. You'll find everything you plot has got an exponent, is culminating faster and faster, which means with every exponential increase, there is more that the human being has to mentally deal with and spiritually deal with. So in my book, The One-Eyed Impostor, you will find this is in the same chapter about trials and tribulations. And in there, I argue that the trial is subjected towards the intellect of the human being, and the tribulation sets upon the heart of the human being. This is your trials and your tribulations. It affects the intellect. If the intellect cannot solve it, then it falls on the heart. It becomes a tribulation. And these 4 is what I argue, these 4 concepts, Tawheed, Khilafa, Tawazun, and Ilm. These 4 are the ones that are tested the most by the Antichrist. Meaning any trial and tribulation you want to take, because he's going to subject you to circumstances, right? Circumstantial trials. Something will happen here and then it will affect you, then something will happen there, it will affect you, something will happen there, it will affect that group of people. These are all particulars, and particulars can always be unified under like these are specific events, right? So you have the 5 predicables in logic. You have the genus, the type, naw, and then you've got the difference or differentia. Then you've got the specific, and then you've got the event. The specific and the event, these are typically particulars. So they fall under a category. So they'll fall under one of these four categories. There'll either be a trial that affects your faith in terms of your belief in one God, or there'll be a trial that affects what you know in terms of the truth, casting you doubt or casting doubt into you, your knowledge. Or you will be subjected to a trial of you do not know whether what you're learning is true or not, whether it is right or wrong. Or it will be a trial that is subjected towards the balance, whether it's internal within you or within the community or within the nation or within the environment or something or the other, right? So the final piece here now, insofar as the human being is concerned, is the most central aspect, because everything else revolves around this one piece, which is Tawheed, right? In the sciences, in the Islamic sciences, this is the most fundamental, the singular most important science to be established. You can't go forward into anything else until you've established the science of Tawheed, or you've at least understood it, or you have a working knowledge of it, which is typically studied as Aqidah on like the beginner intermediary state, and then you've got, it falls under the larger science of Usuluddin. What Imam al-Ghazali is going to give you here is a general understanding of it from a psychological perspective. What does it mean to understand the universality and unity of one God and His attributes insofar as psychological well-being is concerned? So let's look at what he says in the text. So the section here is Faslu an-nafsu mukhtasiratun min al-a'lam. This about the soul as an abridgment, of the realms, because the human being is the microcosm to the macrocosm, the cosmos. Last week I said that the human being is such that the universe is incomplete without the human being, but the human being is complete without the universe. The human being is the last of the major creations, because once after the human being now comes the hour, right? We are the ones who are going to reach the finality, the final hour, when everything is going to be disintegrated, to now reinitiate, to initiate now the age that is to come now, the age of resurrection, the age of reconstruction of everything, the age of judgment, the age of sorting out those who will be earning His favor and those who will be damned. So we are the last piece of the puzzle of this great, there's no word to describe it, this whole, all of creation, this alam. We are the last piece. And within us is reflected all that is external. So this is what he says. وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ النَّفْسَ ابْنُ آدَمْ مُخْتَصَرَةٌ مِنَ الْعَالَمِ وَفِيهَا مِنْ كُلِّ سُورَةٍ فِي الْعَالَمِ أَثَرَ minhu. So know that the soul of Adam, the essence of the Son of Man, is an abridgment from the alam, from the realm. And from every form of the world, there is a trace of it in the human being. Every form, every object, everything that you see in the realm has a trace of it inside the human being. لِأَنَّ هَذِهِ الْعِظَامُ كَالْجِبَالِ. So, like the bones are like the mountains. He's giving you examples. The bones are like the mountains. وَلَحْمُهُ كَالتُّرَابِ. And the flesh is like soil. وَشَعْرُهُ كَالنَّبَاتِ. And the hair is like plants. وَرَأْسُهُ كَالسَّمَاءِ. And the head is like the sky. وَحَوَاسُهُ مِثْلُ الْكَوَاكِبِ. And the senses are like the planets and the stars. وَتَفْصِيلُ ذَلِكَ طَوِيلٌ. And descriptions like these, they can go on and on. وَأَيْضًا فَإِنَّ فِي بَاطِنِهِ صُنَّاعَ الْعَالَمِ. Likewise, all the craftsmen of the world are assembled in the inward. لأن القوة في المعدة أو معدة. لأن القوة في المعدة كالطباخ. Like the stomach is like the cook. All the soup is in there, all the juices, all the manufacturing is taking place in there. والتي في الكبد كالخبار. And the liver is like the baker. وَالَّتِي فِي الْأَمْعَاءِ كَالْقَصَّارِ. And the intestines are like the tanner. In the traditional sense, you had they had like animal skin, and then the tanner would sort of prepare the hide, stretch the hide, and then trim off the excess, and then the process of turning animal hide into usable leather for clothing and other stuff, right? So he was called the tanner. وَالَّتِي تُبَيِّضُ اللَّبَنَ وَتُحَمِّرُ الدَّمُّ كَالصَّبَاغ. And that which turns that which whitens the milk and reddens the blood is like the dyer, the one who makes the dye, the colors. وَشَرْهُ ذَلِكَ يَطُولُ. And such elaborations, they can go on and on. Like you can draw any such example from reality and exemplify what is internal of the human being. That's what his point is. He's trying to tell you that you can look at any aspect of reality and see a reflection of mankind in that reality. You can say your eyes are like the headlights, and then your forehead is like the bumper, and you can use I'm using the allegory of a car. Your hands are like tires, you see. You can pick anything that's in reality and draw a sort of analogy of that reality and find a reflection in the human being. Like Imam Ali said in his diwan, دَوَاؤُكَ فِيكَ وَمَا تُبْصِرُ وَدَوَاؤُكَ مِنْكَ وَمَا تُبْشِرُ وتزعم أنك جرم صغير وفيك انتوى العالم الأكبر. Your medicine is in you, if only you could see it. Your medicine is in you, if only you could feel it. And you suppose yourself such a jurmun saghirun, like a small particle, insignificant thing, a particle of dust. Yet within you are collected these immense realms, these alam al-akbar, great realms are collected within you. A cosmological reflection. وَالْمَقْصُودُ أَن تَعْلَمَ كَمَا فِي بَاطِنِكَ مِنَ الْأَعْوَالِمِ مُخْتَلِفَةٌ كُلُّهُمْ مَغْشُولُونَ بِخِدْمَتِكَ. And the purpose of telling you, the maqsad of me giving you this example is to tell you so that you know that there are so many different worlds that are collected in you, all of which are preoccupied with your service, to serve you. All these different faculties within you, the different systems within you, all these organs, and everything that is external also reflected inwardly, has been set in place for your service, to serve you. وَأَنْتَ فِي غَفْلَةٍ عَنْهُمْ. And you are completely heedless about them. وَهُمْ لَا يَسْتَرِيحُونَ وَلَا تَعْرِفُهُمْ أَنْتَ وَلَا تَشْكُرُ مَنْ أَنْعَمَ عَلَيْكَ بِهِمْ. You are heedless of them. They don't take rest. They don't stop. They're always functioning. Your heart is always beating, your physical organ. Your brain is always maintaining regularity within you. Your blood cells, they're always, your white blood cells, they're always fighting. Everything that is a part of you within you is functioning to serve you. Everything that is external is also doing the same thing. The plants are out there collecting carbon dioxide, removing oxygen for you to breathe. Everything that is out there is serving you, and you are completely heedless of them. And they don't rest. They're always functioning. Yet you do not even know them. وَلَا تَعْرِفُهُمْ أَنْتَ. You don't even know them. وَلَا تَشْكُرُ مَنْ أَنْعَمَ عَلَيْكَ بِهِمْ. And you don't even thank the one who has blessed you with them. This is what he's trying to arrive at. A majority, in fact, his argument would be that all your psychological distresses, your internal turmoils, are all centrally, you can trace them back to a state of ingratitude. That's the argument of all our scholars, right down to the Prophet ﷺ. Your psychological distress, your distress in this world is due to a lack of gratitude from you to your Lord. right? The scholar said, وَالشُّكْرُ صَرْفُ الْعَبْدِ صَرْفُ الْعَبْدِ مَا أَوْلَاهُ مَوْلَاهُ مِنْ نَعْمَاهُ في رِضَاهُ. Shukr is to be thankful, is to be grateful of what your Lord has given you in the favor that He has intended for you, to be content with that favor, and to spend of those blessings in what He has intended of them. If He's given you 2 legs and 2 hands and eyes and this body, and He's given you health, it is to use all that in gratitude. Gratitude is to use all that in exchange for what they were intended for. Anything other than that, to purpose yourself towards anything other than that, is to put yourself in a state of distress. Right?
So the person without legs, without arms.
Yeah, like the person you saw in the...
She had only one
Yeah.
strip and one finger,
Yeah.
and she was pressing the ridge.
Subhanallah. Yeah. One of the scholars said, I lamented that as I walked into the masjid, I lamented because I was complaining of having no shoes until I met a man who had no feet. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَا رَبُّكُمْ لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَلَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنِّي عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. If you are grateful, I will increase for you. But if you're going to be an ingrate and complain, right? When you complain, you explain your pain for no gain. Remember that. When you complain, you explain your pain for no gain. You're not going to get anything out of it. And people love complaining. And nobody loves complainers. Even complainers themselves don't like complainers. Because you're taking away what they're supposed to be doing. You hear this in the khutbah. I don't know if people listen to the khutbah anymore. Every Friday, every Jum'ah. فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. Remember me, and I will remember you. And be grateful to me, and don't be an ingrate. The very fact that she brought you into existence is a matter to be grateful for. And this is where people they put themselves in a state of distress, I'm not happy, things are not working out, things are not like this, everything is haywire. Yeah, number one, you're complaining. Number two, you didn't even stop to count your blessings, to examine where you are, why you are in that state. So in the next section he says now, فَصْلُ فِي مَعْرِفَةِ تَرْكِيبِ الْجَسَدِ, on knowing the composition of the body. Why? So this is going to be our segue into next session when we do Ibn Sina's temperament theory. So he's saying it is vital also to take care and to look after your body. This is what we began with in the first instance with Abu Zaid's text, when he spoke about the body as complementary to the soul complementary to the body. So he says, وَمَنَافِعُ الْأَعْدَاءِ الَّتِي يُقَالَ عَنْهَا فِي عِلْمِ التَّشْرِيحِ وهو علم عظيم والخلق غافلون عنه وكذلك علم الطب. There are incredible benefits of the extensions of the body, all the body parts, all the anatomy, the human anatomy, which are spoken of in the science of anatomy, is what he says, علم التشريح, which is the science of anatomy. And it is a great science. وَالْخَلْقُ غَافِلُونَ عَنْهُ. But most of mankind, most of creation is heedless of it. And the same is true for علم الطب, medicine. Most of mankind is just completely heedless. I mean, you look at people, they have no idea the kind of medicines that they're taking. Whatever the doctor says, they just put it in their mouth. They don't even look and examine, what is it? What is it composed of? What is it supposed to do? How does it affect my body? Why is it necessary? Is there an alternative? Very few people will actually do that to try and understand what sort of treatment that they are undergoing. You see? I mean, in the West, it's so prevalent that nobody asks any questions. The doctor says, cut it off, they cut it off. Remove it, they remove it. eat this, they eat that. Then nobody questions that to understand what it is that's going into their body, and is it necessary, and what are its effects, how are they going to impede the psychological well-being. Not the physical well-being only, the psychological state. فَكُلُّ مَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يَنْظَرَ في نفسه وعجائب صنع الله تعالى فيها يحتاج إلى معرفة ثلاثة أشياء من الصفات الإلهية. Whoever now wants to look within himself and to marvel at these amazing, these designs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is vital that he knows three things about the divine attributes. These are the three things that he's going to talk about. The concept of Tawheed overall, but then three specific things as they pertain psychology. Whoever wants to now take this step and examine the body and then examine the soul and understand physiology and psychology. There are three things you must know. الأولى أن يعرف أن خالق الشخص قادر على الكمال. You have to know, the first thing you have to know, that the creator of the individual is omnipotent and has complete power over the perfection of his creation. You have to, this is an axiom you have to understand if you're doing psychology or you're doing physiology, because you're examining the human being. You have to understand that the creator, first and foremost, that there is a creator of the human being, and that creator has complete power over the perfection of the human being. In other words, what you might think is an imperfection or a defect in the body or the soul, in its natural state, not in its affected state, right? Not like in a traumatic state or something of the sort. In the natural state, what you might think is a defect, that is how Allah has created it, and that is perfect as He has intended it to be. You have to establish that from the onset. You've got a civilization now that thinks that everything about the human being has got a defect. You see, like they're trying to make improvements now on the human being. You know, transhumanism. Oh, you can attach now devices so that we can process information faster, we can see better, we can hear better. These are all defects according to them. Natural selection, their God, natural selection is their God, right? In evolution. Made a mistake somewhere. You see, this is all random because it's all random, it's all chaos according to them. So there's a defect. There's a defect in human beings because of the way they process emotions. So find ways to get rid of that, either using drugs or using something else. This fine-tuning is what they do. This is their psychology and physiology. That's not the stance that you take as a Muslim. Whether you're doing it as a profession to help others or you're doing it for the betterment of yourself, you have to understand that what you think or you suppose might be a defect is not a defect. He has created you as perfectly as He wants you to be. This is what it is. This is who you are, and this He has done it deliberately in that sense. وَلَيْسَ بِعَاجِزٍ. He is not incapacitated by anything, because to say that creation has a defect is to say that the Creator made a mistake. You see, that becomes wrong, ghalat. You can't say that because Allah He doesn't make mistakes. He's not the one who, because again, this is what Tawheed entails, understanding the oneness of Allah. You see, the perfection of Allah. To say that there is a defect in the human being is to say that the creator of that human being made a mistake. وَهُوَ اللَّهُ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى. And He is Allah, subhanahu, glory be unto Him, and exalted be He. وَلَيْسَ عَمَلٌ فِي الْعَالَمِ بِأَعْجَبِ مِنْ خَلْقِ الْإِنسَانِ مِنْ مَاءٍ مَهِينٍ. And there is nothing more marvelous, more astounding, more perplexing than the creation of the human being, this complex, sophisticated individual, from a drop or from a drop that is of a vile fluid. A drop of a vile fluid. The sperm is a vile fluid. It's a useless fluid. insofar as the human being is concerned, functionality-wise, it's a useless fluid. Its only purpose is to prompt the fertilization of another human being. That's it. And otherwise, it's a vile fluid. It's a filthy fluid. It's najis. And so what he's saying is there's nothing more marvelous, more perplexing, more astounding than to see this created thing here, this highly intelligent, sophisticated being. You would be amazed if you speak to doctors who, not doctors who are like mostly practicing doctors, but doctors who are mostly in research in the medical field. You will be amazed at how much they keep on discovering about the human being. It's just astounding. They still haven't completed the understanding of physiology. That you've got specialists who are specializing in the most minutest aspects of the human being. Like someone has a PhD in only the ear, and someone has a PhD in the nose, and someone has a PhD only in the eye, which are the senses. Forget the other organs. You see? What he's saying, it's amazing to see something. How can anyone look at this creature and say, oh, God made a mistake? How is that possible? For any rational individual to look at the human being and to say, oh, there's a defect, you see, there's something wrong, we need to alter the genes. You see, we need to do gene editing. Let's inject the whole population with a virus and a special vaccine and see what happens. Maybe it will make them better, maybe it will not, maybe they'll die. This is the kind of people who are running the world today. Circus 19. This is what it was about. There was nothing else. It was a whole testing. It was a testing. The whole world was a petri dish for them. See, introduce RNA. See what happens to gene modification. Then they collect the results. So now they're there. Everyone thinks it's all over. It's not over. Right now they're computing their results. They're trying to see now what the results are going to produce, what the data is going to produce now, so that they can now see what the next step they have to take in terms of now alteration. This is part of their transhumanism agenda. Where was I? وتصوير هذا الشخص بهذه الصورة العجيبة. And the perception of this individual in this wondrous form, كما قال سبحانه وتعالى إنا خلقنا الإنسان من نطفة أمشاج نبتليه. Indeed, we created mankind from a mixture of the sperm, because it's got the male and the female. This is one of those terms in the Quran that the Mufassirin have difficulty with, because it includes both the male and the female denotive in the term. Anyway, that's a different discussion. فإعادته بعد الموت أهون عليه لأن الإعادة أسهل من الابتداء. Very interesting, he's saying. To bring him back after death is simpler, is much more easier than having originated him in the first place. Because repeating the task, لأن الإعادة أسهل من الابتداء. Repeating a task is easier than initiating a task for the first time. Now, this is a very interesting piece of logic. People actually overlook this a lot. This is a very, very interesting, and it's one of the core arguments that the Quran produces. Al-Farabi was asked, because Al-Farabi is recognized as the second father of logic. Aristotle is the first who originated the science. So Al-Farabi, which is a very remarkable thing, that, someone like Al-Farabi, out of all the logicians between that 1200 year plus gap, going back more than 1200 years, I would say, all the logicians that came out of Aristotle's academy and over the centuries, Al-Farabi is the one who comes up as the second father in the Muslim world, for that matter. So they asked him, what would you ask him if you were to meet Aristotle? What would you ask him? So he said, I would ask him about this ayah in Surah Yasin. وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم. And they come up with these examples, these allegories of these all these theories of theirs to challenge, but then they forget their own origination. And he says, when he's presenting his arguments. Who is going to bring all these bones back to life after they've turned to dust? And so the response comes back, قُلْ يُحْيِي الَّذِي أَنْشَأَهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. Well, the one who did it, the one who brought them to life in the first instance is the one who will bring them to life in the second instance. And so Farabi wanted to ask this question because this is a kind of syllogism in which the minor premise is omitted because it's implied, making it a foolproof statement. Like the logic is sound and also true, right? So the middle premise, which is the implied statement, is what Ghazali is saying here. The Ghazali is giving the implied statement that doing a task the second time is easier than doing it the first time. So who's going to bring everything back to life? Because he did it the first time, he can do it the second time, he will do it the second time. You see, that's the conclusion of it. Right? It's a very interesting, the way the ayah is presented. And all those people who like to object and say, oh, the Quran has got defects and the Quran has mistakes, and something like this, as just, any intellectual will look at this and say, this is just an astounding thing to present a logic of such a sort, because it's a very complex logic. It has to be so airtight that you can't poke a hole in it. That's why when they asked for Al-Farabi, he said, this is the question I would like to ask Aristotle, the father of logic. What does he think about this ayah from the Quran, insofar as its logical soundness and truth is concerned? Because you cannot object to it. It's a universal thing. Anyone who does something for the first time, and then, because when you do it for the first time, implied within you is already the potential and the ability and the capability to do it again. Whether or not you succeed in it, that's a different thing. But within you, it's already there. Like if you've ever made a dish for the first time, right? You tried to cook something for the first time, and it comes out nice, right? It comes out amazing, tastes very good, right? And so you try it the next time, it doesn't taste as well. You missed an ingredient or something or the other. But the fact that you did it the first time and it came out good, it came out perfect, the potential is in you to redo it in the same perfection the next time around. Because you've already done it the first time. So you can do it the second time. You see, nothing prevents you from it. That's why it is such a foolproof thing. This is why for the human being, you have to understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in terms of Him creating you as the being and proportioning you variantly from every other being, because we are in a world whereby each thing in creation is a unique creation. There are no categories in reality. This is going deeper into philosophy. In reality, there are no categories. There are no groups. These are all constructs of human intellection. Like if you want to talk about trees, there is nothing like trees out there. In reality, there is no trees. Each tree is different. You cannot group them together in reality. We are the ones who build these categories in our construct in order to make sense of reality, to rationalize it. We just group them together to say, okay, this is collectively that. Instead of having to individually remember one item, each and every tree being different, and naming each and every tree individually. You see, like in astronomy now, it wasn't as much sophisticated as it used to be before. Observational astronomy, they just grouped everything as stars, right? And then they gave each star its name. But then they collectively grouped certain stars as constellations, and then those were given names. Now, there are so many more stars and planets and galaxies, celestial bodies that can be seen through telescopes that each one cannot be given a name. They have to give it a number now. There has to be some sort of a sequential code that is given to each star that they see or they quote unquote discover, because there are so many particulars, and there's so many, and there are just about just a few thousand words in any language to collectively give each and every item a name. You see, so this is what we do. Intellection, then we just group everything together. we categorize everything together. Like for these cameras that are here, I'll just call them cameras. You see, I'm not going to call them individually by name. It's too much in terms of intellection. The power of intellection will be exhausted. So we make things easier for us. So each thing in creation is unique. Likewise, the human being is also unique in terms of his proportionality, his internal proportionality, his external proportionality. And to achieve psychological soundness, what he's saying is you have to recognize that proportion is perfect for you. You might be different from the other. Maybe that other person has bigger muscles than you do, but that's as far as that person's proportion is concerned. That's perfect for them, for that individual. Maybe this other person is very good at mathematics, and you are not. That proportion is perfect for them, because where they have strengths, they will have a balancing off of weaknesses. This is the tawazun. And the same is true within you. And what he's telling you throughout all this is for you to realize your inner potential. What is your proportionality within you? Examine yourself internally to understand what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. How has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala proportioned you? You see? But you have to understand that whatever you find, it is perfect as He has created you to be. You cannot see, if you try to pick out any defect and say, oh, this is wrong, I need to fix this. My nose is like this, I need to do plastic surgery and fix that. You see? Or this is like that, I need to do like this and like that. No, if you do that, you're not going to achieve psychological soundness. You're just going to make matters worse for yourself, because you're going to end up having to deal with now the defects which come out from that. Right? Come again? Vanity, exactly, yes, thank you, that's the word. That's the word. Yes. No, exactly that. That's what it will result in. It will result in vanity, because you're going to start seeing yourself in a sense that, this is why you find many people psychologically, they will look into mirrors even though they don't have to. They'll just automatically look at anything that's reflective. They will look at themselves, because it will appear on the outward sense that they are admiring themselves, but in reality they are looking for defects which they can rectify.
What about vanity? Like, I'm not talking about plastic surgery, I'm talking about husband over obsessed with the woman's appearance, or a woman obsessed with her own appearance.
Yeah, it will apply on all aspects.
A man obsessed with his appearance. So you explain that.
Yeah, it will apply on all aspects. And wherever because you'll see whatever defect you see in yourself, you will also see. And by the way, whatever defect you see in others, that defect will be reflected in you. Any defect that you see in somebody else, like if it's your spouse, for example, and you're trying to fix certain aspects of your spouse because they look like defects to you, those defects will actually be reflected within you. This is going into philosophy, but something that I call the equilibrium of wonder. The equilibrium of wonder, theoretically, as far as my theory is concerned, is whenever you think about something else, you will automatically be thinking about its adverse or its other side of the balance. Like if you're thinking about up, that the up is referential or relative to you thinking about down as well at the same time. If you're looking up at the sky, you're thinking about the stars, you will be thinking about that insofar as the ground is concerned, the earth is concerned. Whatever you think about somebody else, as your spouse, for instance, because your spouse is your opposite as well as your companion in that sense, a zawj, right? The other half of you. So whatever defect you're going to think about in them, you're going to reflect the same defects in you. And you're going to try and fix it, because the vanity is going to come out of that in terms of you now. You think that you're admiring, but you're actually looking for issues. And you're trying to fix those issues. Well, those issues are going to be reflected within you. It's going to play an adverse effect on you eventually. Because you're actually going, al-lisanu tarjumanul qalb. The tongue is the translator of the heart. Whatever you express in the outward is reflective of whatever is within you. You're picking somebody else's fault, that fault is guaranteed to be within you. That's it. He's going to actually say something on that in a bit. Yes, he will. He's going to say something on that in a bit. We'll come to this in a bit. Now, so that was the first thing. Understand that Allah is perfect in whatever He has created, however He has proportioned you, with whatever proportionality He's given you. Now, don't take that, if you've got a complex, or if you've got a disorder, or if you've got a bad habit, or if you've got something like that, don't say, this is how Allah has created me. No, this is where the distinction has to be made. You see? Don't do bad things and have bad habits and just let it go and say, this is what God has created me. That's stupidity. Or this is how I am. Yeah, people usually like to say that, this is how I am. Take me as I am. You see, accept me for who I am. That's not who you are. Because who you are has been defined for you in the Quran as a human being, as the Khalifa. That's what you're supposed to be. You see, anything other than that is not who you are. That's what he's trying to say, is that, that's not what he's trying to say, that's what I'm trying to say here. You see, don't use that as an excuse to say Allah has created me like this. People like to say these things as, this is excuses. This is the self justifying to the self. This is your excusing yourself from your bad habits. You're never going to fix the problem. Because the more justifications you give, the more you mask the problem with layers upon layers. You see, you're making it worse. Because now you have to, because psychological therapy in this case requires one layer to be peeled and then the next layer, the next layer, the next layer, until you come to the root problem. The more justifications you give, the more you bury it on these layers, which means the harder it becomes for you to solve it within you. So don't use that as an excuse to say, this is how Allah has created me. You see, you're a smoker full-time, 3 packets a day. Yeah, Allah has created me like that. No, that's a habit you picked up. That's what you've done to yourself. You weren't born with a cigarette in your mouth. So don't use that as an excuse. Or, somebody who likes just joking all the time. Jokes over everything. Everything is a joke. Making fun of this one, making fun of that one. Don't take it to heart. This is how I am. This is just who I am. Don't take on your offense. No, that's an excuse. What do you mean don't take it as an offense? Why are you behaving like that? Allah didn't create you like that. You didn't come out of your mother's womb laughing at everyone, making fun of everyone. Or the person who's just argumentative. Actually this, actually that. I think it's like this. No, you're wrong. In fact, it's like that. You need to get your facts straight. The person who's always arguing. Allah's created me like that. No, you're doing it. You see, this is where you have to understand who are you really. This is what he began with. To go deeper within yourself until you reach your heart. To understand who you really are, not who you think you are. This is vanity now. What you're saying, what you're talking about, that's vanity. Who you think you are is not who you really are. It's not about how you dress or what kind of clothes you wear or what sort of adornments you put on yourself. Your jewelry or your rings or your hairstyles and all these things. That's not who you are. That's who you think you are, because you look in the mirror, you look with vanity in the mirror and you project yourself a certain understanding of who you think you are. That's yourself doing it. Yourself is the one that's projecting that. You need to go deeper to understand who you really are, not just who you are in terms of your outward. So the second thing he says, الثانية معرفة علمه سبحانه وتعالى. Understanding, not in terms of, you need to recognize his knowledge. وأنه محيط بالأشياء كلها لأن هذه العجائب والغرائب لا تمكن إلا بكمال العلم. You have to understand that his knowledge encompasses all things, because all these marvels that you see, all these perplexities that you see in reality could not have been possible except through this complete knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, this complete knowledge is what? It's not scientia. It's not knowledge that we determine. Okay? Like we know as human beings, if you take hydrogen atom, if you take oxygen, and you mix the two together, you're going to get H2O. H2O is the building block, is the formula for water, right? So we know that. We know that the dhahiri sense of it. You see? But his knowledge is not scientific knowledge in terms of calling this hydrogen and calling this oxygen and then combining the two in a lab to see what will happen. That's not what his knowledge entails. His knowledge entails all that is seen, all that is unseen, and whatever is within them, within the two. Now, this includes the component of time. This is where you have to understand your limitation, because time is an entity that the human mind cannot comprehend. You cannot comprehend time because you cannot comprehend eternity. See, time is a portion of eternity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ana ad-dahar. He is ad-dahar. He is eternal. If you cannot comprehend Him, His nature, you can't comprehend eternity. If you can't comprehend eternity, you cannot comprehend time. If you cannot comprehend time, you cannot know how things originated and how they are going to transpire. If you examine things, all you will see is randomness. You will just see things happening. Like you won't understand how you see, there are a lot of things that we take for granted. Even in our day-to-day activity, our day-to-day life, we take things for granted. I will do something, I'll wake up at this time, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. And you think that you have control. You'll find the ayah in Surah Yunus. You look for the ayah. They look at the human beings, until this earth takes on a sort of a decoration, you see, it takes on an adornment, and its people think that we have power over it, we have control over this. You see, you think that you have control over your life because you woke up at this time. You see, then you picked up the toothbrush yourself, and you made the coffee yourself, and then you put on your own clothes, and you went out. And you think that you have control over all that. But that control can just as easily be taken away. And there are people who experience that. Paralysis, disability, even the slightest, just one sense going bad, your eyesight going, and that's it, your world is ended, your life is ended there. You see, you think that you have control, but you don't. Because you cannot encompass all of knowledge to understand the outcome of a thing. I spoke about this in terms of time. You see, every moment has a number of possibilities, possible outcomes. And you cannot know what those possible outcomes are going to be. And then the possible outcomes of those possible outcomes. And then the possible outcomes of those possible outcomes. What pathway could be navigated in terms of a single individual going on a linear pattern, right? A linear pattern. You do this and then you do this and then you do that and then that leads you to this and then that results in the other. That's a linear pattern. But there are so many other possibilities that could have happened from that. Right now we're having this lecture. We think that we have control, but anything could happen right now. The electricity could go out. The internet could go out. There goes the lecture, done. Something can happen, whatever. And we think that we have control, but we don't have control. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what you have to understand in terms of your psychological well-being. That you have a limitation insofar as control is concerned. And I spoke about this in the first lecture, the second lecture. To understand that you cannot control life. You are not sent here to control life. If you try it, it will put you, because you're trying to play God. By you trying to control life, you're trying to play God. Because only God can control life. Why? Because He's the one who created life. And He knows everything about it from its initiation until its finality. See, you don't know when time is going to end. Time, insofar as worldly life is concerned. The last hour, you don't know. No one knows. He keeps on reminding it to you in the Quran. They ask you about the hour. Tell them, only Allah has got knowledge of the hour. If you don't know the last hour, you cannot know the first hour. And because you don't know the first hour and the last hour, you don't know when it began and when it ended, or when it will end, you can't measure. If you can't measure a fundamental unit of measure. You see, you can't measure a fundamental unit of measure. On that account, you cannot measure anything else. That goes for everything that we have developed in the sciences, in mathematics and physics, biology and chemistry, everything we've developed in sciences. Velocity, direction, speed, gravity, density, mass, volume, all those things. Everything that we have tried to figure out is all as a result of a fundamental unit of measure, which is time. And we cannot measure time in its entirety to understand the outcome of life. Everything that we can project about human civilization in terms of its forward direction is pure speculation, is complete speculation. The only certainty we have as Muslims, Christians and Jews as well as other prior dispensations who are still carried on in their religion, who still have some aspect of the truth, is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has projected for you as an outcome. So He's told you that such and such a sign is going to occur to indicate that the hour is going to approach to its finality in terms of the collective human being. And even in the individual human being, He will give you inspirational thought on the occasion to remind you that your time is coming to an end. You could go tomorrow. Remember why you're really here. Remember what He sent you to do here. You have to remember that He has a complete knowledge that you cannot understand what that knowledge is or how that knowledge, is executed. You cannot come to terms with that. So don't try to control your life because you don't know what the next moment is going to hold for you. In my book, in the series of the amulets of sihr, the series is called The Oath of Kings. The book 1 is The Amulets of Sihr. Book 4, which is not yet published, I'm still working on it. There is an allegory about the unfolding of a petal. So the sheikh tells the boy, why are you trying to control the outcome of what's going to happen next? Because he's distressed. Why are you trying to control that? He says, look at this flower, this petal, this rosebud. If I try to peel it open and force it to bloom, I will ruin it, I will destroy it. No matter how delicate I try to be. But the architect of this bud, the designer himself, he can unfold it at its right moment and it will bloom with all its beauty. If he can do that, can't he do the same to you? So have faith that he will unfold the moment for you. In other words, recognize that everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is Him. He is the one who is controlling everything. He is the one who is regulating everything because He is the one who has knowledge of everything. If you don't have knowledge of a thing, you cannot unfold it. You cannot bring it out. If you don't know a thing, if you don't know how to make tea, you'll make a mess of things. You see, if you don't know how to cook food, you're going to burn it. You're going to make a mess of things. If you don't know how to do a thing, or what a thing is, or why that thing needs to be done, you're going to make a mess of things. So consider your own life and your own psychological state. You don't know what the next moment is going to hold for you. So why do you try to control it? You are not sent here to control your life. You are sent here to correct your life. Let the moment unfold as it will unfold. It's not in your control. Let it unfold the way it will unfold. And then learn from that moment and then correct your life. If it is a moment that is as a result of what you did in the past, then correct that portion of yourself. That this has happened to me because of what I did at that time. So rectify that. If it is a moment that is unfolding to unearth within you what you did not know of you, to realize, then realize it. Every moment unfolding is there unfolding as an opportunity for you to correct your life. That's why you've been sent into this world, to correct yourself, not to control your life. الثالثة, and the third now he says, أن تعلم أن لطفه ورحمته وعنايته متعلقة بالأشياء كلها. You should know that His grace and His providence and His care and his attention is always engaged in all things. وَأَنَّهَا لَا نِهَايَةَ لَهَا. There is no end to it. He does not pull out at any moment. He doesn't leave things to run their course. This is deep. There's a deeper argument, more sophisticated argument about this in theology. Whether God, and it also goes because it was developed as a counter argument against the Greek arguments, theologies, which were orthodox, like Christian, from the Byzantines, which were mingled with some of the philosophies that the Greeks developed. Whether or not God just creates the initial and then lets things unfold, like he steps back and just lets things happen by themselves. The Muslims negated this, and the Quran negates this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't just create and leave things to run their course. He is actively involved in his creation. This is why in the first ayah, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. See, he's a murabbib. He's not just Khaliq al-Alameen. He didn't just creator of the realms. He is a nurturer of the, he created it, and then he continuously nurtures everything that is in the realms. لما ترى في النبات والحيوان والمعادن من سعة القدرة وحسن الصور والألوان. And if you want, you can see this in the flora and the plants and vegetation. You can see this in the animals. You can see this in the minerals. You can see this in the immense and vast power that he has displayed in creating all these beautiful forms and colors. He is not somebody who just starts the thing and then the machine starts rolling by itself. Or he sits like a CEO and lets everybody do their own job. You do your part, your part, your part, your part. No, he is actively involved in his creation. He is the nurturer of every aspect of creation. And the same is true for you. Do not think that your Lord has forsaken you. Do not ever put yourself in a situation to think that what the moment that you are going through, this distressful moment, this part of your life where you feel like you've hit rock bottom, do not never assume, because the worst thing you can do in that moment is to assume that your Lord has forsaken you. That is the moment when he is closest to you.
Or would rash decisions in that state. Take people tend to make decisions in that state, thinking that, okay, now I get rock bottom.
Yeah.
I have to get myself up. Okay, so I should just do that.
Yeah, because they don't because when you hit rock bottom, you're not supposed to, you're not supposed to fish yourself out. You're supposed to ask somebody to fish you out. The idea of hitting rock bottom is that you ask for help. It's not that you try to climb out of the pit yourself. The first instance is to seek out his help. That's what I mean. Don't think that your Lord is forsaken, because a lot of people get into this mode of thinking that, okay, nobody's going to help me, I have to help myself. Yes, that's true. Nobody else is going to help you. Are we connected?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know. I saw a notification on that said,
Wi-Fi on.
okay. I don't know, that was strange.
It's working.
Okay. Anyway, if there's any issue, they will mention it. Saif is there, so he will observe it.
Looks okay.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
problem.
No, I don't know. There was a notification that said we're not connected.
It shouldn't.
Okay, that's fine. Where was I?
Deepest despair.
Yes, thank you. You're in a position, because you see, you've reached rock bottom. That's a tribulation on you. That's the point when you call out to him. Yes, you do help yourself. Yeah, nobody else is going to help you. That's true. You see? But that's the point where the foremost step to take is to ask his help. If you assume that he has forsaken you, then you're done. Because nobody can help you then. At all. Even yourself, you won't be able to help yourself. You have to foremost understand that he is closest to you. He is with you. Ask his help. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Only you do we serve and worship. Only you do we ask for help, for aid. Iyaka in the Arabic, in that iyaka is to isolate. The pronoun there, the ka is to him, the second person. The pronoun is to him, but the iyaka is to isolate only him. Only you do we ask for help. You see? You have to understand that his care and providence is always engaged in all of creation, in every moment that is unfolding, in every aspect of everyone's life. That goes all the way. You see, it's not a euphemism to say that Allah can feed the bird and the ant, He can feed me. It's not a euphemism. People use it as a justification, as you know, something that is, just like satire or just sensationalism. You see, they use it as a sensational slogan. But there is a truth in that, if it is applied correctly and understood correctly, that if He can do that, then He can certainly take care of you. His providence is always there. He is always there waiting for you to call upon Him. So call upon Him. You see, what was the ayah? فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ. If you remember me, I will remember you. وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. Be grateful to me for what I have given you and what I will give you. Don't be an ingrate. Don't say that I have forsaken you, because you can't. For you to say that is to utter an utmost lie against an absolute truth. Whether or not you realize the truth or not is besides the point. You see, even the atheist can continually say that I don't believe in God, I don't believe, whatever. But he is unrealizing of the matter that God is the one who is keeping him alive. That food that is on his table, he may have gotten it through this means and that means and that means, because Allah has put those means for him. He is the one who has put the asbab in his path for him to receive the food he's going to nourish him with. You see, for you to say that, and it is worse, by the way, I've mentioned this before in one of my lectures. You see, for an atheist to say that I don't believe in God because he's ABCD, okay, that's fine, he'll be dealt with. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, he'll be dealt with. But for an individual such as yourself, a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew, someone who does believe in God, for you to make such a statement is a true test of your faith. It means you never believed to begin with. You never had faith to begin with. You saying that God has forsaken me, or Allah is not with me, or Allah is the one who's caused this misfortune on me. You see, فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي, that's Iblis saying. Because of you, I went astray. You led me astray. See, for you to make that statement, that's something that is on a completely different level. It's blasphemy of the highest order. Because your faith was never true faith to begin with. That's something that you need to ask yourself now. If you've hit that lowest bottom, for you to achieve, because that lowest bottom is a state of distress. It is a state of distress. For you to achieve psychological soundness in that state, you have to remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's providence and care and attention is there in every aspect of every creature's life. And it's never ending. It doesn't stop. It doesn't cease. He doesn't just put things and then pull back. He is always engaged. That's the moment that you have to remember Him. That's the moment He has chosen for you to draw closer to Him. That may be your most distressful moment, but if you play your cards right, that will be your most soundest, most tranquil moment. If you make the right move in that moment. Now, so the next section, and this was now his concept of Tawheed. This is the final piece now. Insofar as now the Tawheed is concerned. We went through the ilm, the tawazun, the khilafah, and now this is the portion of Tawheed. So he's done with that. Now he's coming to his closing remarks. So the second last session now. فصل في تفصيل خلقة بني آدم, on elaborating the creation of Banu Adam. Why was Banu Adam created? What is this Banu Adam? لأنها مفتاح معرفة الصفات الإلهية. Because understanding this, understanding the creation, which is the best of creation, is one of the keys to understanding the divine attributes. Because reflected within the human being are the divine attributes. See, if Allah is Al-Haq, the truth, then man can be truthful. If Allah is Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, man can show mercy. You see, reflected within you are traces of those divine attributes. And people can argue this and start saying things like, oh, it's kufr, and oh, he's doing this, and it's shirk, and all that nonsense. It's not. Examine this within you. You see, man can be creative. Doesn't mean man is a creator, but man can be creative. He can think. He can imagine things. Man can be truthful, like I said. Man can be merciful. Man can sustain. Man can provide for others. Allah is the all provider. Allah is the all sustainer. All the attributes that you want to examine. Imam Al-Ghazali gives a very good explanation on the 99 attributes in his book, The 99 Attributes of Allah. Beautiful explanations. I would really recommend you read that. So he says, وَهُوَ عِلْمٌ شَرِيفٌ عِلْمٌ شَرِيفٌ. It's a noble, honorable knowing, to know this, to know the human being in order to understand the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَذَلِكَ مَعْرِفَةُ عَجَائِبَ سَنَعِ الْإِلَهِيَّةِ وَمَعْرِفَةُ عِظَمِ اللَّهِ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى وَقُدْرَتِهِ. It is the knowledge of the wonders of God's creation and the knowledge of His majesty and His power, glorified and exalted be He. وَهُوَ مُخْتَصِرَةٌ مَعْرِفَةُ الْقَلْبِ. And it is all abridged in the knowing of the heart. وَهُوَ عِلْمٌ شَرِيفٌ. And it is an honorable knowing. To know the heart because all of the human being is surmised in the heart. Because the heart is the central. Everything about the human being is extended from the heart. All aspects of the human beings are extended. The heart is the crux of the human being. إِذْ هُوَ مَعْرِفَةُ الصَّنَعِ الْإِلَهِيَّةِ. And it is a knowledge of one of the divine attributes. لأن النفس كالفرس والعقل كالركيب وجماعهما الفارس. Understand what he's giving you as an allegory here. He's saying the soul is like the horse. The soul is like the horse. The intellect is like the rider. Together they are like the knight. K-N-I-G-H-T, the knight. You know, like the Dark Knight, Batman, right? The Dark Knight, the knight. On a chessboard, this is the strongest piece on the chessboard, the knight. Not in contemporary chess. In chess, shatranj, as it was at Ghazali's time. Chess originates from the Persians, by the way. I don't know when the West took hegemony over that. They like stealing everything that we do. It's like they can't really think for themselves or originate anything by themselves. They just steal everywhere. Wherever they go, they just steal. They went to India, they stole mathematics. They went to Africa, they stole everything there. Wherever they go, they steal. Anyway, what was I saying? Chess, yes, shatranj. In the original game, see, people contemporarily think the queen is the strongest because the queen has got more moves. Well, this is something that was introduced by the West. In the original game, the queen was actually the weakest piece. The weakest piece was the queen. Couldn't move much. It was just basically one step in one straight direction. That was it. The strongest piece in shatranj was the faris, or firis also is called in. The faris was the one who was very flexible and could move in any direction and was not impeded by obstacles. And many of the moves that the faris could make, the knight, were almost unpredictable. Those who have played chess will understand what I mean when I say predictable, because there are some moves that you can predict as the opponent. You can predict what moves your opponent can make, but there are certain moves that just are unpredictable. You wouldn't be able to see them. So the larger number of unpredictable moves by the knight were by the knight. The knight had a larger portion of unpredictable moves. You know, what he's trying to say is that the knight is the most powerful piece on the chessboard. And this here is the game of chess. This life, the game of life. is like chess. You need strategies. You're going to have obstacles. You're going to have people attacking you. You see, you're going to go through difficulties and you need to get to the other side. This is the battlefield now. So, as far as the battlefield is concerned, which piece would you rather be? A pawn who is sacrificed by anyone? Who is always sacrificed? The queen who is the weakest, although has a lot of wealth? The king whom everyone is trying to kill? The rook who can barely move, is rigid and stuck in one place? The bishop who is doctrinally oriented? Because the bishop can only move on an inclined plane. So he cannot never move straight. So who would you rather be? He's telling you, be the knight. Because the knight is flexible. The knight can jump over and avoid obstacles, right? It's like Bruce Lee said, be water. Be like water. You can adapt to any situation. You can navigate your way around obstacles that you can't overcome. You see, certain obstacles you have to meet head on. Certain obstacles you have to avoid. You need to be smart about it. You need to be flexible. So be like the knight. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَعْرِفُ نَفْسَهُ. And whosoever does not know himself, وَهُوَ يَدَّعِي مَعْرِفَةُ غَيْرِهِ. But he claims that he knows other people. I know so and so. You see, that one has got jealousy in their heart. You see, that other one, that one has got like this. You see, like that one has got pride. You see, the individual does not know themselves. And we all know people like that. I know people like that. I won't say who they are. Claims to know what's going on with that person in that person's heart. Claims to know so and so the decisions they made was because of a disease in their heart. Claims to know so and so because they've got this problem. Claims to know so and so has got that problem. But doesn't know themselves. Listen to what he says. فَهُوَ كَالرِّجْلُ الْمُفْلِسِ الَّذِي لَيْسَ لَهُ طَعَامٌ لِنَفْسِهِ وَهُوَ يَدَّعِي أَنَّهُ يُقَوِّتُ فُقَرَاءُ الْمَدِينَةِ. He's like the man who doesn't even have food to feed himself, but he'll stand up on the pedestal and claim, I'm the one who's feeding all the poor people in the city. That's the kind of individual this person is. Vanity. Doesn't understand himself, his own shortcomings. Claims to know who so and so is and who so and so, and that why that person is having difficulty in their life and why that person is suffering, and that because that person's iman is low, and that other one his aqidah is false, and that other one because he didn't do his finger like this in shahada. You see, can pinpoint and criticize everybody else, but doesn't know themselves, doesn't go on a path of rectifying themselves. That's like the person now. Doesn't have food for himself, but claims, oh, I'm the one who's feeding the city. I'm the one who's feeding all the poor people in the city. Fahada mahal, this is absurdity. That's what he's saying. Such a person is absurd. This is called the person is a complete fool. Ahmakun nas, foolish people. That's the category you would be in if you start doing that. Regardless of how intelligent you think you are, regardless of your accomplishments and achievements and successes and all that. If you're doing that, you are a foolish individual. Final section now, he says, Mata, on when the son of Adam deigns the beasts. تفتل بهائم ابن آدم. نعم. إذا عرفت هذا العزة والشرف والكمال والجمال والجلال بعد أن عرفت جواهر القلب أنه جوهر عزيز قد وهب لك وبعد ذلك خفي عنك. When you then come to understand this magnificence that you've been given, this nobility, this perfection that you've been created with, because he has created each individual as perfectly as he's supposed to be, as each individual is supposed to be. And this beauty and this majesty, after you come to understand the essence of the heart, that it is something قَدْ وُهِبَ لَكَ, was bestowed upon you, gifted to you by Allah, because you're the being and He's given you this magnificent, precious essence called the heart. وَبَعْدَ ذَلِكَ خَفِيَ عَنْكَ. After that, it was concealed from you. Why? Because it's upon you to look for it. You have to find it within you. It's upon you because yourself is distracting, is a distracting thing, distracting you from understanding who you really are. These are the only two problems that humankind wants to arrive at an understanding of. It is the problem of identity and the problem of destiny. Who am I and where am I headed to? What is my destiny? And the only way you come to understand who you are is by understanding your heart. Because your body is not who you are. This is why you say my body, my hands, my eyes, my head. If this is mine, it cannot be me. You say myself, yourself, his self or himself, herself, myself. If it is myself, then the self cannot be me. It's mine. This is my cup. This cannot be me. It's mine. It's an additional object. So if I am not my body, and I am not my self, my soul, who am I? Or my heart. My heart tells me this is what I have to do. My heart was broken. My heart is feeling down. My heart cannot be me. Therefore, this heart has been bestowed upon me, has been given to me as a gift to help facilitate something, to help me journey through this existence that Allah has brought me into. So it was given to me, bestowed upon me, and then it was hidden from me as a test upon me to find it, to investigate it as the only real thing about me that will carry on forward. Everything else is supposed to be subservient to it. فَإِن لَمْ تَطْلُبْهُ وَغَفَلْتَ عَنْهُ وَضَيْعَتُهُ كَانَ ذَلِكَ حَسْرَةً عَظِيمَةً عَلَيْكَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. If you do not seek it, if you remain heedless of it, if you ignore it, then this will be your greatest regret on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And Yawm al-Qiyamah is a certainty. It's not a debate. Even the atheist has a feeling, an inkling that he could be wrong. It could be. You see, this is the wager that Imam Ali had when somebody asked him about life after death. And he said to that person, it's very simple. See, if I'm wrong and if I'm wrong and there is no life after death, yani there'll be no resurrection, no qiyamah, nothing of that. If I'm wrong and there is none of that, then that's okay. At least I lived a righteous life. That's Imam Ali said. But if you're wrong, and it turns out that there is a day of resurrection, and that you have to meet your Lord on that day, then you better be prepared with the response. You see? It's a certainty. Even the one who denies it has doubt whether his denial is true. He's not certain about his denial. He may be saying it in the outward. I definitely don't believe in God or life after death or blah, blah, blah. I don't believe in it. He's saying it in the outward. But deep down he knows that that is true because it's part of fitrah. And fitrah cannot be, you cannot take it out. La tabdila li khalqillah. It can't be exchanged with something else. It is there, it's part of you. It can't be removed. It can be masked, it can be hidden, it can be suppressed, it can be confounded, but it's there in you. And this is part of your a priori knowledge because you understand that you came from the divine presence, it's in your fitrah, and you will return to the divine presence. So if you do not understand this about yourself, then you will be damned on that day. فاجتهد في طلبه واترك أشغال الدنيا كلها وكل شرف لم يظهر في الدنيا. So strive in seeking it and understanding it, in rectifying it. Leave all the preoccupations of the world and leave all the preoccupations of the world. وَكُلُّ شَرَفٍ لَمْ يَظْهَرُ فِي الدُّنْيَا. And any of these honors, these achievements, these accomplishments, these recognitions that do not manifest in this world, leave them. If you didn't get it, leave it. Leave all that pursuit. You actively seeking it worsens your situation. You actively looking for recognition. Because, if you look at the state of the Muslim Ummah today, let's talk about the Ummah as a whole. Why is the Ummah in such a pitiful state? Because it is preoccupied in seeking the recognition of others. You see, the Ummah is looking for Western recognition. They want representation. They want to be seen in Hollywood. They want to be seen in film and media. They want to be seen wearing suit and tie, going to work with a briefcase. They want that. Because the West gives them a recognition of that. Claps their hands. See, you're civilized now. See, we brought you civilization. You are now civilized. The West wants that. The Ummah is looking for it actively. And as a repercussion now, you look at the state of the Ummah. In a state of distress. Collectively. Now, the same is true for the individual. Where the individual is looking for that recognition, is looking for that spotlight, wants to be seen, then in your outward pursuit, you forget about your inward reality. And that's what puts you in a state of distress. It is the reason why you're having difficulties in life. Because your heart is shrouded, your heart is clouded. You don't have clarity in judgment. You don't have clarity in intellection. You cannot find solutions that are effective to the problems, the real problems of your life. The real issues that you're encountering in your life, your heart cannot find this, the sanctity, sorry, not the sanctity, the tranquility and the peace to be able to resolve them. So leave all these preoccupations. وَاتْرُكْ أَشْغَالَ الدُّنْيَا كُلَّهَا وَكُلُّ شَرَفٍ لَمْ يَظْهَرُ فِي الدُّنْيَا. Leave all the preoccupations of this world and leave all the recognitions and all these honors that are supposedly bestowed upon an individual. You see, all the awards and the ceremonies and all these things of recognition that you will get. Leave all those. They do not help you. They will help you insofar as this dunya is concerned, materiality. Your 5 minutes of fame, you will get that. Your picture will be taken. Your interview will be given. That's it. It will end there. It's not going to carry forward. It's not something that you're going to stand on Yawmul Qiyamah and demonstrate all the awards and ceremonies and certificates that you got. I really wonder, when I look at people who do these things, it really makes me wonder, are you going to take all those and what are you going to do with them? Is that going to be your defense in front of your Lord on Yawmul Qiyamah? Are you going to stand there with all your certificates and your degrees and your trophies and awards and all that? When He asks you, what did you do with the time that was given to you? Is that what you're going to demonstrate? See, this is what I accomplished. And what do you expect Him to do then? Pat you on the back? Well done. You did what my other servants could not do. All those scholars, all those awliya, all those saints, all those righteous people, all those prophets and messengers, you accomplished what they could not accomplish. Is that what's going to happen? Because you get yourself so focused in these things that you don't see beyond your nose. That's vanity. And that is causing you distress because it's putting you in a state of turmoil within. Your heart is in conflict with your soul. Your heart is in conflict with yourself and you are empowering yourself rather than empowering your heart. You are feeding. You see, there's an old Indian saying, Native American saying, that there are two wolves within you. The victorious one will be the one you feed. There are two wolves within you. The victorious one will be the one you feed. You're feeding the self. You're feeding the soul. You're fulfilling the wants and desires of the soul. You're empowering the soul. And you are diminishing the heart. This is what He's trying to tell you here. Leave those preoccupations. فَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ فَرِحٌ بِلَا غَمٍّ. Because in the akhirah then, you're going to have joy without grief. وَبَقَاءٌ بِلَا فَنَاءٍ. And longevity without annihilation. وَقُدْرَةٌ بِلَا عَجْزٍ. and power without incapacity. وَمَعْرِفَةُ بِلَا جَهْلٍ وَجَمَالٍ وَجَلَالٍ عَظِيمًا. And وَمَعْرِفَةُ بِلَا جَهْلٍ. And you will have understanding without any ignorance. Complete understanding, full clarity. And great honor and great beauty. وَجَمَالٌ وَجَلَالٌ عَظِيمًا. And great beauty and majesty. In the akhirah. Why are you trying to pursue it right now? Why are you trying to get it from all these things that are finite, that are temporal, that are non-lasting? And by the way, don't take my words wrongly. I'm not saying that you completely detach completely from everything. No, because He has said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the Quran, that there is some pleasure, there is some joy, there is some enjoyment for you in this dunya. Follow His guidance so that you can get that benefit as well. In His guidance is tawazun, balance, moderation. Balance yourself internally. Don't put your entire focus on it so that you then come to completely delude yourself about your true purpose of existence. وَأَمَّا الْيَوْمِ فَلَيْسَ شَيْءٌ أَعْجَزُ مِنْهُ لِأَنَّهُ مِسْكِينٌ نَاقِصٌ. As for today, there is nothing lower than the heart. You see, in the akhirah, it will be raised in rank if it is clean, it is pure. Today, it is neglected, miskeen, something impoverished, completely neglected. You have neglected it completely. وَإِنَّمَا الشَّرَفُ غَدًا إِذَا طُرِحَ مِنْ هَذِهِ الْكِمْيَاءِ عَلَى جَوْهَرِ قَلْبِهِ. The honor is tomorrow. The honor is not today. The rank is not given to you today. Insofar as the mundane affairs are concerned, the profanities of human civilization. He keeps on reminding you collectively, look at the people who came before you. You think you've achieved something great with your titi and your this one? Because you invented this, you think you've achieved something big and magnificent? Touchscreen, you got touchscreen. The Egyptians didn't have touchscreen. That's why you think you've done something great. Look at the people who went before you, the magnificence that they left behind. Till today, you can't figure out how they built the pyramids. You cannot fathom, you can't comprehend it. How they did that. How did the Mayans build their pyramids? How did so and so do their thing? How did those people do their thing? You cannot figure out. In fact, there's an argument among anthropologists that the greatest civilization is not our civilization. It is the civilization in the Paleolithic age, which is several thousand years back. Because of the height of spiritual understanding and connection that these people had. That's an argument among anthropologists. I mean, it's debated, but and these are not like religious anthropologists. These are like academics. And they're arguing that regardless of them not having the technology we have, they turn out to be a better civilization than we are. You see? Look back and look at so don't feel empowered and don't feel like this is it, this is the height of it. I'm CEO of such and such company, so I'm the big man now. You feel like you've reached the top. The honor is not here. You're not here to seek out the honor of this world. These things are all mundane. They're all profane. They don't have value. They don't have intrinsic value. Let me put it that way. They may have an extrinsic value. You can count on it in terms of dollars. You know, so and such has got this much price tag, that much price tag. Yes, you can count on it insofar as that is concerned. Which itself, if you look at the actual measure of it itself has no value. The currencies that we use today, insofar as measuring the value of other things, the currencies themselves have no value. So what is it that you're investing yourself in insofar as these things are concerned? Only to put yourself spiritually in a state of disharmony, in a state of depravity. And then you blame this one and you blame that one and you blame God and you blame everyone else other than yourself for putting yourself in that situation. So the honor is tomorrow. وَإِنَّمَا الشَّرَفُ غَدًا. The honor is tomorrow. إِذْ طُرِحَ مِنْ هَذِهِ الْكِمِيَا عَلَى جَوْهَرِ قَلْبِهِ. If he abstracts from this alchemy that he's giving you, if you abstract, if you understand from this alchemy and thrust it into your heart, put it into practice, put it into motion, thrust it upon the essence of his heart, حتى يخلص منه شبه البهائم ويبلغ درجة الملائكة, until he is rid from the likeness of the beasts and is raised to the rank of the angels. Leave the preoccupations of this world. Stop behaving like the animals. Stop behaving like the beasts of this world. Put yourself in a higher rank, because that's what you were created to achieve. فَإِنْ رَجَعَ إِلَى شَهَوَاتِ الدُّنْيَا. But if he returns to the desires of this world, فَضَلَتْ عَلَيْهِ الْبَهَائِمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Superior over him on Yawm al-Qiyamah will be the beasts. You will be even lower than them if you return to the desires and the preoccupations of this world. لِأَنَّهَا تَصِيرُ إِلَى التُّرَابِ. Because the beasts will return to dust. They don't have an afterlife. They don't have Yawm al-Akhirah. Their life, their endurance, their existence this is it. They're going to return to soil, but you are going to carry forward. وَيَبْقَى هُوَ فِي الْعَذَابِ. But you will then end up going into punishment, into damnation, because this is what you ended up making of yourself. This is who you became. You see, and we'll do Imam al-Haddad's text, you'll understand this better. Kun fayakun. He said, be, and the process of becoming began. And that process will end when you die. And then you will be judged as to who you became. Angelic or demonic? Bestial or predatory? What did you become? It's not about, rather, who did you become? See, there's a play on words here, and language plays a role here. We're using a deficient language. In English, this is what's thrust into the minds of children at a very young age, to tell them, what do you want to become when you grow old? You see, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? The what implies a thing. See, I want to be a policeman. I want to be a fire, whatever. I want to be this one. I want to be Superman. This is what is instilled into the minds of a child, so that the child thinks in terms or projects a worldview, because language defines thoughts, thoughts define worldview. And then that worldview is what's cultivated by the individual. So now when they grow up, this is what they cultivate of their reality, because their worldview is reduced to a materialistic worldview. You see, each individual becomes a thing that society predetermines. So you become this thing, that one becomes that thing, that one. So you can change from there and then go and become this other thing. And then you can climb the ladder and become this other thing. You see, everyone is a thing now. But who have you become? Because regardless of what occupation you had, insofar as your livelihood, who did you become? You could have been a cleaner on the street, but you had a higher rank with God than that CEO who actually had the highest rank among the demons. Who did you become at that junction? نعوذ بالله من ذلك ونستجير به. We seek refuge in Allah from that, and we seek His protection. ونستخير به. نعم. وهو نعم المولى ونعم النصير والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. And that is the end of his Kimya as-Sa'ada. We seek refuge in Allah. He is the great master. He is the giver of victory. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. And salutations upon our Mawla, our liege, our guide Muhammad, and upon his family and his companions. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So this is the end of Kimya as-Sa'ada. Let us take a quick break, 5 minutes, and then we will resume and have a short discussion, questions and answers, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نعم. Questions, answers, questions and answers. Okay. Okay, while others are coming up with their questions. Yes. Was there someone?
Yes, I would like
Yes, yes, go ahead. Naam.
But it's not related to the lecture that we have today.
That's okay, inshallah. I'll answer if I can.
So I have confusion, and obviously it will reflect in my question as well. And the question is about this technology stuff, because these technology, these computer sciences, algorithms, chip designing, like these things have so much penetrated in our education that we have earning from last maybe 20 years or so. So I don't know, like where is the boundary where we could see that this is the limit and we should not cross that, or what kind of job or work people are doing, especially in this group, for their earning to live their life. So I'm really confused, like because I'm not clear about that. Like, where is my boundary in this technology?
Well, that's a very good question, and actually, it's a lot more integral. Those who are in the eschatology class with Ustad Hasbullah, I think we did this in the first few sessions. We talked about technique. Is there anyone here who was in that class? Can remember that? Saif, you were in that class? Anyone? Okay, well, we talked about technique in that class. There's a lot more in that field. The techne, by the way, is the original word from which technology comes from. The Greek word is techne. Techne means craft, what you make with your own hands. Now, terms have definitions. Definitions have taken their own meanings over time. And many of the words that originally meant something else now mean something else. Technology has now been sort of given a connotation that has to do with science. So you'll find this attributed constantly, science and technology, as though the two have to go hand in hand. And many people are unable to distinguish these two. Now, I'm an advocate of language. I always advocate that understanding language, mastering language is the key. Really is the key to understanding. The scholar said, Al-Arabiyyatu miftahul ulum. Arabic is the key to the sciences. And they said it at their time when Arabic was the lingua franca, but it still applies. Arabic is the key to the sciences, the spiritual sciences, as far as Muslims are concerned. But we have we use language, but we don't think about language, and we don't have mastery of language. So we don't even think about the words that are being forced onto us and the concepts that those words carry. So someone goes through their schooling years and they're indoctrinated with these languages, because every science is a language. Mathematics is a language. It's a language of numbers. Numbers themselves are words that have been transliterated into symbols. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you see you've got the 1, the 2, the 3. Those are symbols, right? But those are words. 1, O-N-E. 2, T-W-O. The same thing in any language goes. And the same thing goes for sciences insofar as like basic sciences, physics and chemistry and all that. And then all the other sciences that arise from that. These are all languages. And these are the languages that you get yourself indoctrinated with, because it's now, you come out as a product that is created or fabricated in this sense to enter into the workforce, to be a thing, a cog in the greater machine that will push the agenda forward. So how do you get out of that? The first step is realizing it. You need to realize what is going on. You need to have this opening that, is this what life is all about? Is this what I was created to be? Then you start seeing what reality is, what it really is. And then you're able to establish the boundaries for yourself. Now, insofar as the limits you're talking about, no, the modern world doesn't recognize limits. I mean, that's the truth of it. There are no limits. That's the presentation of the modern world. And anyone who, 90% of the human population has gone through secular schooling. And that's the mindset that they come out with. The mindset is that there are no limits. The sky is the limit. You can keep going on and on. The sciences themselves have no limits. You can keep inventing and innovating and keep going and on and on and on. There's no detriment to it. You see, it's the world that it's paradoxical when you examine it and you're understanding it on a philosophical level. It's paradoxical because the world itself is finite. It's limited. But what's presented as a pursuit is bigger, better, faster, more, infinite. We want the infinite, even though everything in reality is finite. It's limited. You see, everything has a limit. Even the truth itself has a limit. But the world wants to be geared towards the unlimited. So everything, this is why you've got all these major transformations in the world. I mean, this is something that we would study under a course, the course of modernity into post-modernity. What's this transformation that's taking place now? Because this is a philosophical question that you've asked. You see, there are no limits. And this is a problem now that everyone faces, because how much do you then indulge in against how much do you hold back in? This, I think, every individual will have to evaluate for themselves, because unfortunately the Ummah itself is not able to collectively come to an understanding. The Ummah itself is incapacitated. A majority of scholars themselves do not recognize their limits. They just don't. And that's a hard truth. You've got scholars of high qualifications who are, doing all this virtual reality thing. I mean, I mentioned this about the Sheikh Sudais and the virtual Hajj thing. What do you do? The very pillars and the foundations of the Ummah are shaky, and they cannot establish limits themselves. What do you expect the layman to do? See? Yeah, and I mean, these are things. This is what, and by the way, all this is a contributing factor, because as the technique evolves, the technology evolves to create the bigger, better, faster, the more events are then brought into the timeline. And this is what also creates the illusion of time moving faster. Because a task that you could perform, let's say 20 years ago, maybe took you an hour, now you can do it in 2 minutes. What do you do with the remaining 58 minutes of your life? You'll fill it with other events. You see? Another event that would have taken 2 hours, you can do it in 5 minutes. Well, you keep filling it in, so time moves faster and faster. Or appears to be, the perception of time moving faster and faster. And this, by the way, creates psychological distress. Because you are an organism, the human being has been created to be in harmony with both realities. But then in one reality, you are foremost disconnected from that. And then in this other reality, you are desynchronized. So yeah, this is going to cause you distress, psychological distress. And the worst part is you don't even realize it. So you're actually just going through the motions.
She's asking, how do you know your own limits?
You have to figure it out. You have to evaluate your life. You have to evaluate where you are and what you are doing. Because yes, in terms of livelihood, some necessitates technology. Some things will necessitate the use of technology. You can't become a Luddite in today's time. Here's the thing, unless you want to go to the farm and live out your life as a farm life, that's where you will actually find complete disconnection from everything that is technology. Living off the grid. Unless you're prepared for that life, which a majority of people are not. Psychologically and physically, they are not able to live that sort of life. So you have to sort of figure out, evaluate it for yourself and balance it out. You see, examine where your needs are and then work only in fulfillment of those needs. Don't cross those limits to go into the wants. So yeah, you need a cell phone. For instance, yes, you need a cell phone. You don't need iPhone 20 something. Which model are we in right now? 14? I was exaggerating, 20 something. Yeah, you don't need iPhone 15 when a simple Android will suffice. You see, you don't need 40 something mega, 50 something, 100 and something megapixel camera on the back of your phone. What do you need that for? You see, you're actually giving into the technology rather than drawing a limit on yourself. Because those are the things that are enticing. Those are the allures. You see, use it insofar as it is fulfillment of your necessity. Beyond that, it is just a toy. And so, you have to set the limits yourself, by the way. You don't expect some external force or entity to come and set the limits for you. You have to set the limits for yourself. You have to do this intellectually. You have to examine, evaluate yourself, evaluate your life, and then put the limits on yourself. To say, okay, this and this is what's necessary for me to do. Other than that, I don't need that.
Don't use that as a measure of your success. So you feel like you need to have that thing so other people can see how successful you are.
That's vanity, yeah. That's vanity, yeah. So if you're going to use that as a measure of your success, by the way, it will all depend on what you define success as. Again, it goes back to language. What are you defining as success? Because some people will look and say, well, those instruments, those technologies, those devices, all those things are like a trophy of success. I need to have those to show that I'm successful. So again, it depends on, so you're going to adorn yourself with all this technology and all these things, but then how does this help you?
Don't give it to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Kids talk.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even if you were to go for the farm life, we still need people of knowledge. Does anyone know where the farmer was?
That's a good question. Anyone know where the farmer ulama are? By the way, there are ulama who are, you'll be surprised. They don't show up on the mainstream, but they are. I mean, like in Mauritania, if you go there to the Bedouin scholars, they're living a very, very subsistent life. You'll be amazed if you see them. Other peoples around the world also, they'll, like the Taliban, for example. I'm not talking about the militia of the Taliban, I'm talking about the ulama of the Taliban. These are not people who are conversant with technology and all these things. They're people who are actually, they're living in the mountains. Now they are involved with the entire country and it's running and all that, but they're not conversant with all this technology and all. They actually have to get other people to help them out. But you'll be amazed. There are ulama who are completely disconnected from the materiality of the world. And then there are ulama who are trying to balance it out between both ways. They want to use technology to help spread the word. So they'll be more involved technologically. To use it as, again, you have to evaluate yourself and your position, who you are and what you need it for. Other than that, what becomes a desire? Because then there are also ulama who turn it into a vanity project for themselves. You see, it's marketing and promotion for themselves. It's a way to demonstrate themselves. So they'll document everything that they do and post it on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Every aspect of their life will be there. They'll have 3, maybe 4, 5, 6 posts every day. It becomes like a routine thing for them. And then they'll justify it and say, no, we're spreading the word of Islam, we're doing dawah. Okay, fine. You'll get your reward for it if it's true and sincere. Anyway.
How to hands up.
Sorry?
Abdullah asks how to hands up.
Come again?
Can you explain it? Alam nashrah laka
Assalamu alaikum, Ustad.
Yes, yes. Wa alaikum salam wa
I
rahmatullah.
was just asking how do I put my hands up? To
Oh,
ask a
okay,
question.
okay.
Yeah. So the question I wanted to ask was, you were saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created everybody perfectly for the individual self. And I remember a few classes before also, you were also saying that everything, is created in a form. So everything has been created in a form for its purpose. Now my question is, I just wanted your opinion on what you think about, kidney transplants and like surgical stuff like that when it comes to taking someone else's kidney and putting it into your body. Since everyone is created for their own for their own form, and Allah has created everybody perfectly, when people, they're sick and they need, a transplant for whatever reason, like how does that play out? What's your opinion about that?
Well, there is a fiqh side to it, which I'm not going to get into the fiqh of it. There are opinions. There are some opinions that say that you shouldn't do that. There are other opinions that say, well, argue that if it's going to save somebody else's life and you're able to, then you should. There are other opinions that even as far as organ donation goes, like when you die, your organs are donated to someone else. There are opinions that go on that. So that's a fiqh. And there's khilaf, there's ikhtilaf. I don't get into that. Psychologically, there's a different aspect to that also. So yes, it is, from the Western perspective, it doesn't have any implication, right? It's just an organ. It's just a piece of flesh. It's just this, it's just that. And then it can be demonstrated scientifically by taking the organ from one body and implanting it into another body. Yes, and it will function. But there are other implications that go with that. So, and this has been experienced psychologically. So heart transplants especially will experience this. They'll experience a sort of a trace memory of the person from whom the transplant was received. They'll experience the memories of that person, or they will experience some sort of likeness or inclination that person had. These are traces. That's why I say trace memory, not the memory itself, but a trace of it, because whatever the soul experiences will manifest on the body. So there are psychological implications on that, yes. And that phenomena is still something that I guess we still have to understand what it actually, why that happens. Yeah.
Okay, Jazakallah. I have one more question. I also recall you mentioning about, I guess, meditation, to know yourself. You have to sort of, push everything aside and sit in an empty place and look inside yourself, to know yourself. How long would you say it would take for a person to get to know himself?
How long is a quantitative question. You can't really come to that. There's no set formula as to how long is required. 1 hour is enough, 2 hours enough, no. Each individual is different. Each individual, what they have within themselves is different. How much they're carrying with them. What sort of tribulations they are undergoing. What sort of baggage they have brought with them, right? Their background, their upbringing. So it varies from person to person. You could have two people with the same amount of baggage. Let's assume you've got twins who have always grown up together every moment of their life. From childhood, they've had the same things, they've had the same upbringing, and then you find that one of them is in a state of depression, the other person is not so much. And the reason being, because the one person didn't manage themselves as they were growing up. The other person managed to, let's say, let some things go or reconcile some things internally, or something or the other. So the capacity of each individual is different. So if both of them were to sit in meditation and sort of try and figure themselves out, maybe one person might obviously take longer than the other. Now, this is not something that can be achieved in an hour or 2 hours. It's something that would be achieved maybe in an hour every day for I don't know how many days. It could take weeks, it could take months. The point is consistency, and that's why Imam al-Ghazali said it's something that you have to keep on doing. You see, tajriba, it's something that you have to keep on trying. There has to be consistency in doing that, in constantly examining yourself or questioning yourself. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? Is it because of this internally? Was my ghadab doing this? Was my shahwa doing this? You see, you have to keep on doing that in every wakeful moment of your life, so that ultimately you start learning. You see, you're studying yourself now. I think I should have said that actually. You're studying yourself. You're learning yourself. That's what meditation is about. It's not about entering a spiritual dimension or getting transported through a portal or something. It's about you alone reflecting on yourself and learning about yourself, studying yourself. And that could take any time, any amount of time. It could take days, it could take weeks, it could take months.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. I just wanted to say something. I noticed like myself, I noticed since the month of Ramadan, at the ending, like the last 10 days of the month, and I noticed it last month and this month as well. After reading the Quran, like today is the 25th day, so I noticed I get like a lot of waswas during the last period, the last 10 period of the month, but like the first 10 and then the middle 10, and everything is okay, alhamdulillah, but it's like that last push, when it comes to the end of the month, I gotta get these like waswas and stuff, coming, so.
Yeah, that's that kind of waswas. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the waswas, the words are, like what the thoughts are, but I will tell you in terms of the generality of it. Shaitan loves doing that. He will either try to deter you from doing a task in the beginning, or towards the end of it, he will try and make you not complete it. So a lot of people will start a task, but they won't finish it. Yeah. Not just in Ramadan, but in any other month. You'll actually experience this in any other month. You're saying you feel it in Ramadan? That I don't know, because as far as I know, the shayateen are locked in Ramadan. So I don't know which shaitan must have escaped. But it could also be from the nafsiyah, like it could be from the self. Yeah. It could be from the self as well. It could be from the self, just the self, the will of the self. We'll talk about, we'll go into Imam al-Haddad's text. We'll talk about the death of the soul, the will, the inertia of the soul. Is just not, because people will do that. Like I say, people will start a task, but they won't finish it. They'll lose the drive, they'll lose the momentum of it, yeah. So you'll start a task, you won't finish it. So shaitan is going to try, and if he doesn't succeed in preventing you from doing the task in the first place, he'll try and come in just before you're about to finish and try to push you off track. Take a break, relax a little bit, don't worry, you can do it tomorrow, like that. I'll give you suggestions that will deter you from the task.
Yeah, like I said, I noticed it in Ramadan.
And the final push, that's really the hardest. The last struggle, that's the hardest push.
Okay, Jazakallah.
No.
Can you explain Alam Nashrah Laka Sadrak in light of what you explained earlier?
In light of what? The
Alam Nashrah Laka Sadrak.
No, Alam Nashrah Laka Sadrak, yeah. The ayah is Alam Nashrah Laka Sadrak. It's a question Allah is asking the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, did we not expand for you your sadr, your breast, your chest, so that you could receive this nur, this enlightenment that came from Allah. And there is a contextual meaning to that, because it follows Surah Al-Duha as well. Don't think that your Lord has forsaken you. وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. Your Lord has not forsaken you. Don't assume that. And then it goes on, and then Alam Nashrah Laka Sadrak. Is it
Specific to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam?
Well, everything is specific, everything. By the way, the Quran is specific to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam first, primary, and then by extension to everyone else. So the primary is always the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and then it comes to the rest of mankind. So yes, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had his breast expanded, his sadr, but mankind, the rest of us are also able to do that or receive that from Allah if we prepare ourselves for that. So we can have, people do have understandings expanded, right?
For us it's struggle.
Yes, it is a struggle, We have to strive for it, But Allah can choose whomsoever He wants to give that gift to, that benefit to. So there are people who have incredible openings, just like that. The people who receive openings and understandings without them having to do anything. I gave that story about Helen Keller. She's not a Muslim, but she had this incredible opening, regardless of her senses being, not functioning. But she had this incredible opening to understand that. So yeah, you can have the unveilings, kashf. Everyone can receive that. Spiritual unveilings, philosophical unveilings, even scientific unveilings. People have these unveilings. Like Newton is just sitting under the tree, and then the apple falls on his head, and then he realizes gravity, the universal law of gravity, just by sitting under a tree with an apple falling on his head. And yet there are counterparts sitting in the university trying to figure the equations out, and he is this guy sitting under a tree. Not to say that he wasn't as smart and educated as academic as the others, but he got that opening just by, so Allah can choose whomsoever He wants to send His guidance to. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, all of such scientific unveilings, they tend to take place in very strange settings. Like Ibn Haytham, for example, figured out the pinhole camera. So the concept of the modern camera originates from the pinhole camera, right? Light going in, and then through a lens, it's flipped upside down and it falls on a film. And that film captures that light information. Ibn Haytham, he discovered that sitting in a prison cell. He was imprisoned. And there was a hole in the wall where the only piece of light, ray of light was coming, and he saw on the wall across from that, the outside was being not refracted. It was like focused. The rays were being, I'm forgetting these terms now. And the image was imprinted on the opposite wall. That's how he discovered that, and that's how he understood also that, because prior to Ibn Haytham, it was assumed that we saw things by emitting light from our eyes, like a torch, like headlights. That's what it was assumed before, that we project light. We cast out light like a torch, you see. Ibn Haytham, that's how he understood that it's not like that actually. It's light comes into the eyes, that's how we see things. And then he verifies that with the Quran. Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. We'll do this ayah inshallah after we do Imam al-Haddad's text. You'll understand this better inshallah. We see by light coming in, not by it coming out. So he was just sitting there in the prison cell and his thoughts, and this is how he figured it out. So people can have openings in many different ways. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can choose whomsoever He wants to direct His guidance to. Okay, now next question.
Can we learn from the Amish people? They live simple life.
The Amish people. Oh yes, yeah, we can learn a lot from the Amish people. I mean, it's amazing how the Amish actually live in a modern age, in a modernized country. And yet, who was asking about limits earlier? Was it Sister Shakila? Yes. I mean, limits. These are the people who set limits. You see, and they set it for themselves. And they survive and they live happy and prosperous lives. They don't have televisions in their house. Some of them, I think they do have radios. I'm not sure. Some of them don't even use electricity. Like they still have, they only use like lanterns and stuff in their homes. They don't have electricity. Even as far as their farming equipment is concerned, some of them actually started using like tractors and machinery, but some don't even have that. They'll use like traditional plows and stuff like that. They have got like zero technology insofar as and they will raise their children in their home, they will school them, they'll actually teach them integral things, integral sciences. Like they'll teach them, sciences like physics and all these things, mathematics, and they'll teach them all these things. And you'll be surprised at the level of education these children have. It's amazing, I remember who it was. I think it was one of the former presidents of the United States before he became a president. He went to a farm and he found one. The farmer was just resting under a tree, and he was reading Homer's Iliad in the original Greek. And he was really amazed by that. Because, first of all, that's a book of high literature. A lot of people in the modern world, they will not be able to understand Homer, even in the English translations, even in the simplified translation, you wouldn't be able to understand what he's talking about. And he's this farmer, he's sitting there and he's reading this in Greek. He was really amazed by that, an Amish farmer, you know. It's truly amazing. Even in the Muslim world, it's amazing. You'll find, you know, like we're the only civilization that has produced literate Bedouin people. Like, Bedouin people, completely detached from any technology whatsoever, and have high levels of literacy. Like the scholars of Mauritania, they know logic, they know philosophy, they know all the Islamic sciences, the fiqh, the usul, they understand, they even understand modern theories, theories in physics, like field theory. It's amazing that you can be that without requiring technology. It's all about how you identify where the limits are going to be. Oh yeah, so good question. I went off track on that, sorry.
Can you comment on Surah Ahzab, ayah 72? You spoke about how living in the dunya to a large degree brought out the bad tendencies of certain built-in qualities like qadr, etc. through our fitrah, though our fitrah is inherently good. But this amana took place before our worldly life, and man is described as zaluman and jahula.
Ayah number
72.
Okay. No. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. He says, إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. This trust was offered to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, and they all declined to bear it. They all said, except the human being. The humanity assumed it, took it, because they were, innahu kana, the human being was dhaluman jahula. Dhaluman jahula was unjust to himself and was ignorant of the consequences. Yes, the trust of intellection, the trust of the word of God, the word of the Almighty was offered to the rest of creation, but the rest of creation was fearful for taking that word. But mankind will take it and will take the responsibility for it. But he's called insan, and it's very interesting, he says insan in that also, because Ibn Abbas said, Nasiya al-insan ahadillah fasumi al-insan. Nasiya al-insan, because insan comes from the same root word as forgetfulness. Nasiya, you see, Nasiya al-insan ahadillah. Insan was called insan. Insan forgot the ahad, the covenant he made with Allah, of bearing this responsibility that he was going to be given as the Khalifa. And this is why he was called insan, the one who forgot what it means to bear that responsibility, what it means to carry that weight. I hope that answered the question. What is the rest of the question?
This amana took place before our worldly life, and man is described as zaluman and jahula.
Sorry, what's the whole thing? I can't see it very clearly. It's
Living in the dunya to a large degree brought out the bad tendencies of certain built-in qualities,
yes, yeah.
etc. Though our fitrah is inherently good, but this amana took place before our worldly life, and Quran is described as volition and jahul.
Yes. The covenant itself took place before we entered into this worldly life, to bear the weight of the word of Allah, the word of God. And we took that responsibility because we are an intellective being. So we thought that we could handle it. And some of us took the responsibility well, and most of us faltered on that responsibility.
What's the meaning of volition and jahul?
Dhaluman is like dhulm, so you're unjust, and jahulan these are like descriptives. Jahlan, like ignorance. So man was unjust because he causes injustice from the word of God, right? I mean, look at the Muslim Ummah today. It's very interesting if you look at it in terms of this ayah. People will just go in and they'll take, draw whatever interpretive, they'll draw whatever meaning to justify their actions from the Quran, and they won't really have any khawf as to what they're doing. They won't even have this slight fear or this awe that this is the word of God, so I need to be careful. And they'll just take in an ayah and they'll just present what they think about it. You see, and as a result, causing themselves injustice, and then just out of ignorance, spreading ignorance. Sorry?
Elaborate on what?
I'm not really understanding the question. I mean,
Sister, could you elaborate?
Mhm. Could you maybe rephrase the question?
Sorry, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I was just, it was more the description of the insan, that it's like such a strong description of volumen and jahula. It's like such a degree of badness, and it was kind of before any of the dunya life, like the conditioning of, that would make you more materialistic and selfish and greedy. So it was before all of that, and it just felt like we started off so bad. So that was just, I was reflecting.
Oh, no. That could be because of the way the ayah has been. You see, when you look at an ayah of the Quran, you have to remember that embedded into the statement itself is the rhetoric in which it is presented, and time is a factor of articulation. So even though it is being narrated as in the past tense, it's not necessarily relating to, in terms of linearity of time in that sense. To say that when he was given this word, that's the moment, he faltered. It's not in that sense. It's something that happened as a consequence of, as time went on. Because if you look back at world history, see, the word of Allah, Kalamullah, was given to previous peoples as well, right? And some of them succeeded, most of them faltered. So, and this has been a cycle with every civilization up until our civilization now. This last age, the last 1400 years, is the last age. And every civilization, in every age you look at, the majority are those who have faltered. A very small minority have succeeded. You see? So in terms of collectively saying, you look at it and say, well, most of them are just ungrateful. Most of them, are just arrogant. Most of them are ignorant. Most of them are just doing injustice. This is what the Iblis is trying to prove. And he says it before also, you will find most of them are ungrateful. In Surah Al-A'raf, after he says, فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي, you led me astray. And then he says, أَنذِرْنِي إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ, reprieve me until the day that they are resurrected. I will come from them from the left, the right, from front and from back. And you will find most of them are ungrateful. You see? So this is the collective in this case now. It's not all of humanity. It's a majority of humanity, because you can't say that the Prophet ﷺ, for example, did not succeed in bearing this responsibility. You can't say that his companions did not succeed in bearing this responsibility. You can't say that many of the awliya and many of the scholars, righteous scholars, rightly guided scholars, did not succeed in bearing this responsibility. You can't say that. And you can't also say the same thing about the many Christians, true Christians, who succeeded on their part, the many Israelites who succeeded on their part, right? The many going back in other civilizations also who succeeded in their part also. You can't say the same thing, that they did not bear that responsibility as well as they should have. Yani that they were human jahula as well. You can't say that. So this, I mean, it falls under a fallacy as well. It's a fallacy of hasty generalization, like, you know, a few apples turned out bad, so the whole bunch is bad. You can't say that. You have to look at the ayah in terms of what it is articulating. It's not about the human being, it's about the weight of the word. That's what's really being articulated. What's being expressed here is about the weight of the word of Allah, how weighty it is, such that even the mountains and the earth and the heavens, didn't want to bear the responsibility. But here's the human being who said, I'll take that responsibility. So most of them faltered. Are you going to be one of those? That's the admonition that comes with the ayah as well. That's the wa'id that comes with the ayah. I hope that made sense.
Jazakallah khair.
No.
Regarding the issue concerning our previous life and its reference to the Quran, to the souls being as conscripts, some people say, why are we held accountable for our covenant of that time which we no longer remember in this life? What is the wisdom behind this?
Okay, so that's a good question. We'll actually go in deeper into that ayah in Imam al-Haddad's text, because he's going to talk about the pre-worldly stage, and then we're going to explain how that pre-worldly stage transitioned into this worldly stage, because in every transition there is a death that occurs. So there's a death. We had to die in that stage to be born in this state, and then we'll die in this state to be resurrected in the next stage. So I know a lot of people actually use this. This argument actually goes back to Socratic times, because there was this argument among the philosophers about a priori knowledge as a concept. Because the counter argument to that was tabula rasa. Tabula rasa against a priori. Tabula rasa means it's a blank slate, you don't have any memory, you don't have anything, it's a complete empty hard drive to be filled with data, right? A priori says, no, there is already some knowledge in there, and all of what you will learn in this world is just a reminder or an unlocking of that knowledge. Islam takes the position of a priori, not tabula rasa, which is very interesting. See, the Quran does take sides. The Quran takes sides. It plays a balancing role, but it will take sides amongst previous other dispensations and different arguments. Like the Ashab al-Kahf, for example. In the Christian tradition, the Orthodox Christians believe in the companions, the sleepers of the cave, or they call them the sleepers of Ephesus. The Catholic tradition does not believe in that. In the Catholic tradition, they said that that's apocryphal, that it's something that was made up, like a soothing tale or something to just help people have more faith. So the Catholic tradition negates that. The Quran takes the side of the Orthodox Christians, you see, and says, no, they were awliya. So the Quran takes sides amongst dialectics and arguments. So like the rich man and the poor man is an age-old argument. Materialism versus spiritualism. So the Quran takes the side of the spiritualist, not the materialist. So in terms of something like this, the knowledge that you had before a priori, the Quran takes the side of a priori by saying that you actually made this covenant. Now, the point of argumentation here is that, how come I don't remember it? Well, that's the idea. The idea is for you to remember it. You see, it's something that you have to be reminded. This is why the Quran is reminding you. It is one of its name is ad-dhikr, it's the reminder. You see? And this is what Allah is saying, remember me, I will remember you. So you have to remember that covenant that you made. Now, the remembrance here is not a semantic memory. It's not a memory that is like imprinted on the brain. What we talked about before, the brain and the memory components. It's not a semantic memory. It's not an episodic memory. It's not a memory that has an algorithmic function to it, because it was not a memory that was experienced in a bodily form. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not a memory that was experienced in the bodily form. You didn't have a body at that time. You didn't have the physical brain. So it's not a memory that you can recall in any algorithmic function. It's a memory that is realized in the heart because it was experienced by the heart.
When you return it, you experience a sense of sukoon, of
The realization itself, yeah. When you realize it, you will experience the tranquility that comes with it.
can prior wisdom be related to fitra?
Yes, that's what fitra is entailing. That's why he even collates the two ayats together, right? Did we do this, or did I skip this? Yes, so he on page 38 or 39, because my paging is a bit different than yours. I think there's an extra page in your text. But he says, وَقَالَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى وَأَشْهَدَهُمْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ أَلَسْتُ بِرَبِّكُمْ قَالُوا بَلَى شَهِدْنَا. And then he says, وَكَذَلِكَ بَنُو آدَمْ فِي فِطْرَتِهِمْ التَّصْدِيقِ بِالرُّبُوبِيَّةِ. You see, this tasdeeq, this conviction that He is your Lord is in your fitrah. كما قال سبحانه وتعالى فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها. This is the fitrah with which Allah has created, upon which Allah has created or originated mankind. So it is directly related to your fitrah, and that's why it is a knowledge that you come with. It is not a knowledge that is estimated of this worldly aspect. It's not a rational knowledge. It's not a scientific knowledge. So it's not a knowledge, or it's not a realization in terms of you remembering that. It's not a memory unlocked by the brain. It's a memory that is realized by the heart. It is not a realization that will come through like you read a book on Aqidah and now you know who God is. It's not that kind of knowledge, or that kind of realization, or that kind of memory. Anyway, we'll come to this ayah in the future session, inshallah. And I'll go, step by step on that section, so you understand it better, inshallah. Okay. Is there any other question? I had seen a question posted on the group, and I didn't. I just saw it today when I was logging in. So if there's no other question, maybe I can address that. There were two questions actually. No? Okay. So there were actually two questions. Number one, I'm going to read out the questions, and actually I find these two questions are related, so I'll answer them all together. All four questions. There are four questions. So I'll answer all of them together. So when you mentioned knowledge for prophets being through revelation, inspiration, thrust upon their hearts, is this what is meant by shaq al-sadr? It is often depicted as something literally like taking out his heart and washing it with zamzam or something similar to it. Peace and blessings be upon him. So shaq al-sadr is in the literal sense the ripping out of his heart, or removing. So the Prophet ﷺ, he had his heart, he had his chest opened physically. Some ulama say on 2 occasions, some riwayat say on 4 occasions. It doesn't really matter the semantic there. The idea is that there were 2 that are known. The first took place when he was a young boy, and then the second took place on the night of Isra wal Mi'raj. And his heart was removed, surgically removed. He even had his scar, and it was tawatur. Many of the Sahaba witnessed the scar, which anyone who has had heart surgery will know what that scar is. It cuts right down the center of the chest where the cavity is is opened so that the heart can be removed. So there's a thin scar. So many of the Sahaba saw the scar. So it's not something that you can disbelieve in to say, oh, whatever. So the heart was removed, and then the procedure of how it was described is also astoundingly accurate with how such a procedure would be performed, which is why it can't be denied, because they took out his heart and then they put it in ice, which is really amazing, because that's what they will do in heart surgery. They'll put the heart in ice to slow down its rate of, I don't know what the term is, metabolism or something. They will put it in ice to slow it down. And so that's what they did. The angels, they put the heart in ice and then they washed it. Now, there's a riwayat that when he was 10 years old, they washed it with Zamzam, but then during Isra, they washed it with milk, and again, there's another riwayat that says they washed it with Zamzam on Isra wal Mi'raj as well. Now, I'll come round back to that, but what the point here was that the heart, the physical heart, was being prepared to receive revelation, because revelation itself is not an easy thing. Like the same ayah we looked at, Surah Al-Ahzab, you see, it's not an easy, if the mountains are not able to, take that weight. Receiving revelation, there are many hadith you will find about the Sahaba narrating from their perspective what they witnessed when the Prophet ﷺ was receiving revelation. In one incident, his camel had to sit down. He was riding his camel, he had to sit down because of the weight of the word that was coming down. In another narration, Abu Bakr said he was sitting next to the Prophet, and he felt the weight of his leg really, because he was right next to him, and he really felt the weight. It almost broke his own leg, the weight of revelation coming down on him. So for something like that, an average human being would not be able to handle that. A lot of the Orientalists started coming up with all these defamation, things saying, oh, he was having epileptic seizures and stuff like that, which is just their, reductionist way of just explaining everything away just like that. It's not an easy thing to receive revelation, so he had to be prepped for that. He had to be prepared for that. So one of the things that prepared him for that was the removal of a clot of blood from his heart, which the angels told him was a sin, the black spot which is on the heart of the son of Adam, the spot of sin, is removal of that. I mean, you can look up this hadith and you will be able to, we can go on talking about this for a while. So I'll come back around to this, why something like this is necessary, like why it was done to him. What does it mean insofar as revelation and inspiration thrust upon their hearts is concerned? So the other question is, how do you differentiate between wahi for a layman who knows prophethood is complete, yet Allah can guide whomsoever He wills, from nafs and waswasa? The thing is here, you don't distinguish between wahi and nafs and waswasa insofar as you are concerned, because the common man does not receive wahi. Wahi is exclusive to the prophets. Wahi does not come to you and me. We don't get wahi. We have nafs and waswasa talking to us, but we don't have wahi talking to us directly. Wahi is only for the prophets. So you don't do the distinguishment. The wahi, whatever wahi you think you're receiving is not wahi. Wahi is only for the prophets. That's revelation, right? But then to elaborate the above question, let's try to understand what Prophet Ibrahim and Yunus understood, or how they understood. Okay, so in the case of Prophet Ibrahim, he received dreams or thoughts about slaughtering Prophet Ismail. How would he know that this is Allah's command, and why wasn't it put under the category of waswasa or nafs? Now that's a good question. The vision that he received, Prophet Nabi Ibrahim, how did he know that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not from his nafs? Now, first of all, you have to understand, anything that a prophet receives is part of revelation. Naam, okay. Anything that a prophet receives in terms of a vision is part of revelation. the prophets are protected from demonic thoughts. So going back to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the things that was done insofar as, or was achieved insofar as the cleansing of his heart, was to remove those things that would confound him when he would be receiving revelation. Because this revelation has come in the form of a recitation. So it's a revelation that enters into the world, into the realm of sound. It comes from a realm of nur, the Jabarut, light, and then that light takes on its essence and then meaning, and then it passes through the heavens, it starts taking on a resonance. Then that resonance comes out in terms of vibrations, and that's South now. Alam al-South, the realm of sound, which is now the recitation. It comes out as a recitation. You see? So he was receiving it in the form of language. You see? So his heart, because language can be manipulated in that sense. So part of him being prepared for that was to cleanse him or his heart from that thing that would cause any form of interference when revelation would come to him. And it's an interesting thing to note between Ibrahim alayhi salam and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So let me come to that. I'll explain that in a short bit right here. So when he received this revelation, this vision, you'll find that there's something interesting that takes place, because he did not just figure it out or try to figure it out himself. Could it be this? Could it be that? Is it just a dream? Is it just that? He did something quite remarkable in this sense. He consulted with his son. You see, he talked because it pertained his son. So he consulted with his son. There was a deliberation taking place in order to eliminate, is this maybe just something that's, myself is just constructing within me? Is it a true vision? It cannot be a demonic vision, because the prophets are protected from that. So when he says it, and now he speaks to his son, and Allah says when his son had reached the age of effort, which is physical effort and mental effort, means he was able to intellect. فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ So when his son reached the age of effort, قَالَ Ibrahim said to him, يَا بُنَيَّ إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ I saw in my sleep. I saw a vision in my sleep. O my son, I saw a vision in my sleep. أَنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ فَانْظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى أَنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ I was slaughtering you, I was sacrificing you. But then he asks him, this is a request he's giving him, فَانْظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى So, what do you think about this? In other words, what do you think this is just something that was, psychologically disturbing me? Like, what was it? And his son says to him, Ya abati, O my father, ifa'al ma tu'mar. Do as you have been commanded to do. In other words, what Ismail was telling him, it is safer to take this as a command than to assume that it is not. See, you have to understand, Ibrahim, if you really understand the imprint that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you about Ibrahim alayhi salam, you will actually find him to be a highly, highly intellectual individual. In the questions that he asks, in the methodologies that he uses, like when he's determining the stars and the moon and the sun, in the way he sets up the axe and the idol, you see, in the way he responds when he is questioned, in the way he does things, you find him to be a very, very highly intellectual individual. And his son, Ismail, is also an intelligent individual. So what he's telling him is that, listen, you saw this in your dream. We cannot assume that it is not a command. It is better to take it as a command because you are a prophet of Allah. You see? Unlike Yunus alayhi salam, which you have mentioned here, he made a lapse in judgment. You see, he made a lapse in judgment. And I'll explain Yunus alayhi salam as well. Do we have time? How much time do we have? Like, I know we've gone overboard. So maybe another 10 minutes? Okay. So 10 minutes, I'll not finish this. So he then tells him, Satajiduni insha'Allahu min as-sabirin. You will find me to be among those who are patient. فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَ وَطَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينَ. And they submitted, meaning they took this as a command and they fulfilled the command. And Ibrahim put his head on the side, ready to sacrifice him. وَنَادَيْنَاهُ أَنْ يَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ. And we turned to him then. We said, "O Ibrahim, قَدْ صَدَقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا." You have fulfilled the vision. I said that this also has the meaning of you took the vision literally. You see, you took it to its letter. You fulfilled the vision. You fulfilled the command that was given to you. إِنَّا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Indeed, those who are muhsin, those who achieve this level of spirituality. إِنَّ هَذَا لَهُوَ الْبَلَاءُ الْمُبِينَ. This was a revealing test. It was to test you. Now, and then وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمٍ. And then we exchanged or we ransomed his son for a ram sacrifice. وَتَرَكْنَا عَلَيْهِ الْآخِرِينَ. And we blessed Ibrahim upon him with a great descendancy in later generations. Salamun ala Ibrahim, peace and blessings upon Ibrahim. The way Ibrahim alayhi salam conducted himself is to demonstrate that what he envisioned was not, he went through a mode of deliberation. You see, he tried to figure it out. Is this something that is just from my own self, my own volition, or is it something that is from revelation? And so with his son, he was able to determine that I'm going to take it as revelation, and he was right in that deliberation. Now, if you look at Yunus alayhi salam, in the case of Prophet Yunus, Allah sent him to Nineveh, but he left from there. How would he know that his job is not yet complete in Nineveh? Interestingly, Prophet Yunus left Nineveh when he is not supposed to. That life after that has become a great sign, an indication for future link with Prophet Isa alayhi salam, when the Prophet Yunus why couldn't he identify his thoughts, whether it's waswasa or nafs or wahi? Also, as it was said in the Bible, as 3 days and 3 nights, the man stuck in the belly of. Okay, so this is from the book of Matthew, Matthew 12, I believe, or Matthew 20, I'm not sure. Breaks the alleged Christian claim that he died for the came back from his sins. Mentioned duration. So with Prophet Yunus alayhi salam, also you have to understand, all the prophets, first of all, whenever they make a mistake, they're actually, the prophets are identified as free from sin, but not free from error, free from mistake, free from sin, but not free from mistake. So they do make mistakes, which is there, right? With Yunus alayhi salam, if you examine his rationality, it makes perfect sense what he did was right. His rationality. Because he sent to these people, they were not listening to him, so he said, you know what, if you guys are not going to bother, I'm going to take the message to those who will listen. And that's what he set out to do. But his mistake now, that's not a sin he committed, it's a mistake. His mistake was that insofar as the rationality of it is concerned, that's fine. But you, Yunus, you are not a common man, you are a prophet of Allah. You do not make a move until your Lord commands you to. That was his mistake. And so he left those people even though he was not commanded to do so. And that was where he realized it when he was on the ship now, and this storm started coming up. And it was the superstition of those people was that somebody must have angered the gods. And this is why we are suffering now with this storm. And so he realized it, said, okay, so this is going to be, it's because of me, it's what I have done now. You see? And so he says, you know what? I'll take responsibility. Throw me overboard. Because the Lord is after me, it's not after you. And if he should come after me while I'm in this boat, you will die as well. So throw me overboard. But those people said, the seafarers, they said, but based on our customs, we cannot do that. we'll draw lots, because these were superstitious people. Seafarers are known for superstition, particularly in the Mediterranean region. You've got a lot of this Greek mythology. If you look at that, they believe in mermaids and sirens and stuff. Anyway, they said, we'll cast lots, you see, to determine who is the culprit here. Well, turns out Yunus got the longest straw. So they took him, and he agreed from before and threw him into the sea. So now this question about, because what the Christians have done is they've taken this and they've turned it into a direct sign. They call it the sign of Jonah. In Matthew, it says, I'm not sure if it's in 12 or it's in 20. Someone can look up the verse and you can just find it. As Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so too will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Or something of the sort. The wording might be different. So what the Christians did is they took that as a direct sign. After, by the way, the supposed crucifixion took place. And they said, oh, look, see here, the Bible had already, see, the message had already been relayed before. See, this is a true sign that Jesus died and then he was resurrected. And this is where they made the biggest mistake, to say that the same way Jonah was resurrected from the belly of the fish. But the question you ask yourself here is, number one, when Jonah was being tossed overboard, was he dead or was he alive? He was alive, right? Because he surrendered. He wasn't they didn't kill him first and then throw him overboard. He was already ready to go. So why would they need to harm him in any way? Just throw him overboard, right? When the fish swallowed him, he was alive. He didn't die, he was alive. In the belly of the fish, he was praying to his Lord. It's there in the Bible, it's there in the Quran as well. La ilaha illa anta, subhanaka inni kuntu min al-dhalimin. I made the mistake. So a dead man cannot be praying. So he's alive in the belly of the fish. And then when the fish spits him out on the shore, he's alive. So if the Bible is saying just like that, so too will the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth, which means the Son of Man is going to be alive when he is put into the heart of the earth, into the tomb. He's going to be alive in the tomb. He's going to be alive when he comes out. You see, this nullifies the Christian ideal of Christ died for our sins, because the entire foundation of modern Christianity is founded on the death of Christ. These are the words of, what's his fellow's name? Paul, who is the father of the church, right? He's the one. Apparently everybody else got it wrong. He's the one who got it right 70 years after Christ died. He's the one who got the epiphany to build the church of Christ. Anyway, this is argument. This is what Paul is saying, that the entire foundation of Christianity is built on the death of Christ. If Christ did not die, Christianity has got no basis, because the Holy Spirit and the entire idea of the divinity of Christ rests on the premise that he died. So to justify this, they're showing this correlation, what's known as a fisheye argument. You see, it's just, you're just looking at it from that one perspective, and you're looking at in terms of the fisheye perspective. See, this looks like that, therefore this must be that. That's how they're looking at it. Okay, so 3 days and 3 nights, the Bible says like that, so which means 3 days and 3 nights like that, exactly the same. Therefore, see, he died and he came back to life. This is part of their way, it's a Christian apologetic. But if you understand that verse correctly, if they understand it correctly, then like the Son of Man, being like Jonah in the belly of the whale, is he وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ. They did not crucify him, they did not kill him, he didn't die. بَلْ رَفَعَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. Rather, Allah raised him unto himself. You'll find this in my book, The One-Eyed Impostor. Did Christ really die? I mean, if even those, there are many Muslims also who believe that he died, he's not coming back. He's not coming back towards the end. And even though the Quran says that he is a sign of the hour, they still disbelieve in that. So, I put this argument in my book, The One-Eyed Impostor. You see, so just like that, he was alive. He had not died. Maut had not yet reached him. This is why the Quran doesn't say, Allah doesn't say Maut had reached him. Inni mutawaffika does not mean that I'm going to kill you. It means I'm going to take you. You, your essence, you, the individual. You see, you are going to come to me, raised unto myself. Anyway, we can go on that subject. It's a long topic, and I'm very tired right now. So I hope I answered those questions that were asked. I don't think there's any other question. So now, and then the connection between that now, if you look at the Prophet ﷺ, I spoke about this when he went to Taif. Taif was really his last resort because he was already now, he was essentially, he had exhausted all his efforts with his own people. And yet when he went to Taif, he got this hard hit. And so while he was sitting outside, this came to him as a reminder through the slave from Nineveh. And he came to him and he asked him, where are you from? And this was a Christian slave. He said, I'm from Nineveh. And he said, Nineveh, the one to whom Yunus ibn Matta was sent? And he said, yes. And that's when he remembered now that memory was primed. What happened with Yunus and his people? Because Yunus gave up on them, left them, said the punishment is coming, and then he left. He went away. But then the people themselves, they saw the punishment coming, they changed, and it's there in the Quran, they changed their status. They submitted, they repented. And then Yunus came back and said they repented. And so here is the Prophet ﷺ seeing the people of Taif in this case and saying, and then he makes his dua and he says, and when the angel asks him, should I bring the whole mountain down upon them? He says, no. Maybe the elders will not, but the children might. It can come back, they can turn back around for them. And it's one of the things, like if you look on a deeper level, on a deeper spiritual level, for anyone to pass judgment on anyone else and saying so and so is going to the hellfire is a gross misconduct on the part of being a Muslim to say that, because you don't know, so long as a person is alive, they can always have a turning back around to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They might live a full life of kufr and then, at the very last moment, they turn and submit to Allah. So passing judgment of takfir on anyone, this one calling him a kafir, that one calling him a kafir, that's not how Muslims behave. And it's evident from the Prophet ﷺ how he handled and how he treated people. There's also anyway, we can go on. We've actually crossed our time limit.
How to apply the concepts we have learned of the period of the course in our day-to-day lives. Where should we begin? Should we focus on regulating our actions before our intentions, or vice versa?
Your actions cannot come before your intentions. Your intentions always come before your actions. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. So your actions, whatever action you're performing, it's either a conscious intention, or it is just a volition of the self, but it is still coming from within you. There is already an intent formed, whether it is intuitive or intuitive, it's already there. To apply it in your day-to-day life, the first and foremost step is to first just step back, just break from the routine, and just examine yourself and evaluate yourself. Just take a moment to ask yourself who you are and whether this is what you want to continue with. This life that you're living, is this what you want? And that's what he begins with in the first place. And he says, just examine yourself. The beasts, they like food, they like drinking, they like lifestyle, lavish and everything. That's the bestial life. So if you find delight in that, then this is who you are. The predators, they like arguing, they like, debating, they like confrontations, they like this. This is what you find delight in, then that's who you are. The demons, they like strategizing, they like plotting and planning and, all these things. So if you're delighting in that, preoccupy yourself with that. The angels, their focus is on ilm and tawheed. So if you think that you are of an angelic essence, then that's what you need to target yourselves to. So the first step is to evaluate yourself. Where you are in your life and who do you want to be? Is this what you want? Is this your life? Is this where you delight? This is what you like? Fine, then live and enjoy that. Because at the end of the day, it's you who's going to pay the price and the consequence of either. There are good consequences and bad consequences. You're going to have to encounter those yourself. Once you've identified, evaluated where you are, and by the way, you have to be honest with yourself. Really honest, be honest with yourself, because you will justify it. You'll justify it to yourself. I like this because, like this and like that. And you'll justify it because Sharia this and because fiqh that and because this hadith and that one. You'll justify it. But you will only be lying to yourself. And there's no one who's going to suffer that lie except you. So be honest with yourself in terms of evaluating yourself. Only then will you get a proper understanding of your current status and your position and where you are and where you want to be. Then you start working on it now. And he tells you, be conscious of yourself on every wakeful moment. Be aware of every action you're doing. Are you exhibiting this category or this category or this category? What are you exhibiting? Which entity are you representing? What sort of dreams are you having? Evaluate yourself on a day-to-day basis so that you can rectify. It's the little things. It's not the big changes. Or you start wearing a jubba and a kufi now. So now you're starting a path to cleansing. No, it's not those things. It's not these outward things. It's the little things, the small habits that you have accumulated over the duration of your life, that you have not been paying attention to. Those are the things you want to focus on to say, oh, I'm doing like this. This is why I'm doing it. This is why it's happening. This is why it's happening. And then bit by bit, day by day, you come to learn something new about yourself, something that you can rectify, something that you can turn around. And then you reflect back and see where you are and where you have arrived at, and to see whether or not you're making progress. This is a lifelong thing for you. You can't turn around the wheel, 180 degrees in one instance and you are now Siratul Mustaqim. No. It's a lifelong thing that you're going to be occupied with. Now, is that any more questions? No? Okay. Let's end for tonight. We have actually taken a lot of time today. Okay, khairan inshallah. So let's end here. سبحانك وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. بارك الله فيكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خيرا.